Chapter 3259. Half a day later, several powerful warriors were close to Luli again. For the second time, Luli sped up the battleship and widened the distance between them to more than 300,000 miles. The powerful warriors kept on chasing. Half a day later, they were close to Luli for the third time. Without any hesitation, Luli sped up the battleship for the third time and widened the distance to more than 300,000 miles. Boom! When the effect of the speed up wore off, the entire battleship glowed, and then it stopped in midair. Luli sensed that the core was useless. The battleship was scrapped for the time being. Let's go. Luli let out the Tribulation Thunder Beast and hopped on. He grabbed its horns. The Tribulation Thunder Beast spread its wings and flew forward in a blur. They were only half a day away from the realm of destruction. After 2 days of recovery, Luli was not as weak as before. His abilities would be affected, but he was not going to fight anyone, so it didn't matter. If the powerful warriors were to catch up with him, he would still be doomed, even if he could recover to his peak state. According to Luli's calculations, it would take at least half a day for the enemies to catch up. In half a day, Luli would arrive at the realm of destruction. By then, he could go into the Eye of Destruction and leave his life in the hands of the Rainbow Race. His Ghost Shadow battleship is useless now. The 4 patriarchs of the Who race said with certainty. Fairy Hermit of the South Pole nodded and said, "Yes, he is using the Tribulation Thunder Beast. This Tribulation Thunder Beast is not an adult yet, so it is not that fast. It is slower than us." Okay. Master of the Rainbow Race was excited. Luli was weak now. He should not be able to use that kind of skill anymore. In half a day, they would be able to catch up with Luli. In half a day, it would be Luli's doomsday. Something is wrong. Fairy Hermit of the South Pole suddenly remembered something. He took out a map and glanced at it. His pupils contracted, and he said, "This punk is probably going to the realm of destruction." Realm of destruction? The 4 powerful warriors changed their expressions. They took out the map and studied it. They did some calculations and realized that Luli seemed to be running in a straight line. Also, he was heading toward the realm of destruction. They knew all too well what was inside the realm of destruction. They had sent powerful warriors of their races in, but none came out. Why was Luli going to the region of destruction? His intentions were very clear. He wanted to enter the Eye of Destruction and use it to stop their pursuit. If Luli had really entered the Eye of Destruction, they wouldn't dare to chase after him. Of course, they didn't think that Luli could survive in the Eye of Destruction. That being said, the Rainbow Race would not be able to salvage their reputation if they failed to capture Luli or take his body. It would be best if Luli could capture him alive. If not, he could bring his body back. If there was nothing, then how could he prove that the Rainbow Race had killed Luli and gotten back at him? The Chaotic Star region would only suspect that Luli had run away and found a place to hide. No, the Rainbow Tribe leader's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness as he growled. "We must stop him. We cannot let him enter the Eye of Destruction." "I'll go to the front." The 4 founding elders of the Who race said, "I will use a secret technique to increase my speed and go to the realm of destruction first. You guys continue to follow. If he goes to the realm of destruction, I promise to capture him." "Thank you, my lord." The Rainbow Tribe leader bowed to express his gratitude. The 4 founding elders of the Who race had a purple glow on their feet. They sped up at least 3 times and soon vanished into the distance. The Rainbow Tribe leader was relieved that the 4 founding elders of the Who race were going to stop Luli. That being said, they all sped up to catch up. Luli was getting closer and closer to the realm of destruction. Not only did he not feel at ease, he was filled with anxiety and uneasiness. This was a perilous place. Even Saint Kings would lose their lives in there, not to mention that Luli was not a Saint King yet. He had the artifact given to him by the Yin Emperor, but who could guarantee that it would be able to survive? Also, the artifact would not last long. Half a day later, Luli saw a huge area ahead of him. It was the realm of destruction marked on the map. Luli was about to fly over in a straight line when he suddenly had a bad feeling. There seemed to be danger lurking in front of him. He didn't know where the danger was yet, but his instinct gave him goosebumps. That might be why his senses were dozens of times sharper when he used the mark of Great Tao. Buzzing, without any hesitation, Lu Li put away the tormented thunder beast and forced himself to use the swift. He dashed to the left of the realm of destruction in a blur. Whoosh! From a piece of rubble outside the realm of destruction, a man dashed out and shouted, "Lu Li, you cannot get away. We have powerful warriors over there as well." Lu Li turned a deaf ear to the shout. He was much faster than the Hu race warriors behind him. He flew around the realm of destruction and soon found a weak spot in the space. He dashed in and began to check with psychic power. To the west, Lu Li sensed that the space to the west was trembling, and so was the Xian-Shi in heaven and earth. Without any hesitation, Lu Li flew over. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, he saw the eye of destruction. He was shocked. A work of God, a wonder of nature. These were the two words that Lu Li could think of. But neither of them could express his astonishment. This was the most dazzling scene he had ever seen. In front of him was a plain. In the center of the plain was a huge oval pit. The pit had a diameter of 300 miles. Looking down from the sky, it looked like a huge eye. What was more amazing was that in the center of the pit was a huge eye. In the center of the pit was a mass of airflow. The airflow was moving slowly and formed into a sphere that looked like a huge eye. But that was not the point. The eye gave off a strange feeling. It was like a living eye with a mysterious power that could see through people's hearts. Eye of God. That was the first impression Lu Li had when he looked down from the sky. It was as if the realm of destruction was the body of an immortal, and the eye of destruction was the immortal's eye. Majestic, mysterious, awe-inspiring, dangerous, and horrifying. That was what the eye of destruction told Lu Li. He had an idea, which was to leave this place as far as possible. Otherwise, he would be torn apart by the eye and crushed into pieces. Ha ha ha. From behind Lu Li came a burst of laughter. The four founding patriarchs of the Hu race caught up with him and said, "Jump in. Why don't you? Didn't you come all the way here? Now that you are here, why don't you jump in? You are a coward." Phew, phew. Lu Li took a deep breath and then dashed toward the eye of destruction. Before he entered the eye of destruction, he took out the bead given by Emperor Yan. He activated the bead, and a surge of energy surged out. Lu Li put on a blue armor. Whoosh! In a blink, Lu Li had dashed into the eye of destruction and disappeared from the sight of the four founding patriarchs of the Hu race. A glint of coldness rose in the four patriarchs of the Hu race. They cursed to themselves, but they did not dare to go in. It was not worth it to lose their lives in there for Lu Li. End of this chapter. Chapter 3260. 2 hours later, the leader of the rainbow race and a few other experts arrived. When they saw the four founding elders of the Hu race standing outside the Eye of Destruction, everyone except the South Pole immortal Wang turned grim. In the end, Lu Li ran into the Eye of Destruction. The four founding patriarchs of the Hu race came earlier, but they failed to stop him. Of course, the leader of the rainbow race did not dare to reprimand the four founding elders. He did not even dare to question them. He sensed my presence in advance, the four elders explained. Then he used that secret technique and escaped into the Eye of Destruction from the other side. Rainbow Race clan leader nodded. He turned to Immortal Hermit of the South Pole, cupped his fists, and said, "Immortal Hermit, is Lu Li dead?" "No." The South Pole Immortal Wang said with certainty, "This kid is still alive. Although his life force is very weak, it should be because he used that secret technique again. Such a weak life aura, yet he's still alive inside. This means that he must have a treasure on him that withstood the attack of the destructive power." What's next? The chief patriarch of the Rainbow Race was struggling. He did not dare to go in. If Lu Li could survive and sneak out, then all their previous efforts would be in vain. The eyes of the leader of the Rainbow Race flickered, and he looked at the South Pole Immortal Hermit. He cupped his fists and said, "Immortal Hermit, can I trouble you to guard this place for a period of time?" They just had to make sure that Lu Li was dead. "Of course, if you guard this place for a year, we will pay you 100 billion celestial stones." "What do you think? 100 billion a year and 1 trillion in 10 years. The rainbow race was willing to pay. If Luli were to stay in there for 1,000 years, then not even the rainbow race could afford such a high price. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole said nothing. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, he said, "I can only stay here for 10 years. If Luli is still alive after 10 years, then I will leave." The South Pole Immortal Hermit was no ordinary martial artist. He was a powerhouse who was infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm. If it wasn't for the fact that the 4 founding elders of the Hu clan had given him the divine materials he desperately needed, he wouldn't have come out to fight them. He wasn't alone. He had a force behind him. If he didn't return for a long time, what if something happened to his forces? Therefore, 10 years was the limit. The Rainbow Tribe leader nodded slightly and said, "All right, thank you, Immortal One. My tribe's Grand Elder will be here with you too. You can tell him if you need anything. I hope that if Luli comes out in the next 10 years, you can help me take him down." "You don't need to say anything more," the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole said impatiently. Then he sat down on a small mountain to the side and ignored the experts. The leader of the rainbow race left some instructions to the Grand Elder. After observing the surroundings for a couple of hours, he left with the experts of the Hu race. There was no point in them staying here. It was enough for the South Pole Immortal Wang and the Grand Elder to stay. If Luli came out, then Immortal Hermit of the South Pole and the Grand Patriarch could kill him easily. If Luli didn't come out, then there was nothing they could do. After all, their lives were more valuable. They couldn't go in and die with Luli. Of course, as far as the Rainbow Race Patriarch and the Hu Race Patriarch was concerned, Luli was doomed. This was the Eye of Destruction. Even Saint Emperors would die if they went in. Luli was an Emperor Realm warrior. So what if Luli had some strange abilities? In the face of absolute power, no tricks would work. The 3 powerful warriors left. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole had been sitting on the small mountain. The Grand Elder was observing the Eye of Destruction. As long as he didn't go in, he would be safe outside. After 2 days of observation, nothing happened. The Grand Elder didn't see anything wrong either. He had to go back to Immortal Hermit of the South Pole and cultivate. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole would know at once if anything went wrong. 3 days, 4 days, 6 days. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole seemed to be cultivating, but he had been keeping an eye on the Eye of Destruction. He opened his eyes and was surprised. Theoretically speaking, even if Luli had treasures, his treasures should have been cracked under the impact of such a strong force of destruction. It had been 6 days. How come Luli was still alive? Did he have the ability to fight against the force of destruction? Otherwise, how could an Emperor Realm warrior survive for so long? It was inexplicable. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole admired Luli's skill of transfiguration and teleportation. He believed that of the entire chaotic star region, apart from himself, no other warrior could track Luli down. Of course, warriors at the absolute completion were excluded. Absolute completion. These 3 words could represent many things. Absolute completion, in a certain aspect, was the true recognition of heaven and earth. Warriors at the absolute completion could have many unimaginable abilities. Warriors at the absolute completion were invincible. This was common knowledge in the 8 galaxies. Warriors at the absolute completion were omnipotent. No one had ever heard of a warrior at the absolute completion being killed. They would only die of old age. Warriors at the absolute completion were transcendent beings. They wouldn't mind such trifles. Even if Luli were to attack a tribe of a warrior at the absolute completion, they wouldn't do anything. Unless the tribe was at the point of life and death, they wouldn't bother to deal with warriors of different levels. Even though Luli had some strange skills, he was at the Emperor Realm after all. This was a shortcoming. Unless he had some powerful treasures, he wouldn't be able to survive in there for so long. Well, let's wait for a bit longer. If you can live for another 10 years, then I will be convinced by you. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole shook his head and closed his eyes. If Luli came out, he would know at once. The world of destruction quieted down. The only thing left in the Eye of Destruction was the massive air that looked like an eye. It was wriggling, emitting a mysterious and strange chi and energy. What a mortal hermit of the South Pole and the chief patriarch of the rainbow race didn't know was that two people were standing on a small hill on the other side of the Eye of Destruction. One of them was a sage-like old man with a fan in his hand. The other one was a short old man with white hair and a white beard. The two didn't seem to have powerful chi and energy. They were just standing on the hill, but a mortal hermit of the South Pole and the chief patriarch of the rainbow race didn't notice them at all. If a mortal hermit of the South Pole and the chief patriarch of the rainbow race knew there were two people here, they would have jumped up in fright and dropped to their knees in fear. The two stood on the hill, looking into the Eye of Destruction. The sage-like old man was calm and had a gentle smile on his face. The other one was anxious. "Astro Emperor," the old man with white hair and beard asked after a while. "Luli is only at the Emperor realm. Even though the god of death has given him a treasure, I don't think he can hold on for more than a few days. What are you waiting for?" The sage-like old man shook his head and said with a smile, "Why should I?" The old man with white hair and beard rolled his eyes and said, "Astro Emperor, if you don't do anything, why are you here in such a hurry? Are you here to see Luli die? Or are you here to send him on his way?" No. The sage-like old man shook his head and said, "I'm not here to see him die. I'm here to see how he can turn things around. This is the 5th tribulation of the 7 calamities. If he can get through this, his combat ability will soar again and he will have a qualitative change. Over the years, we've found 77 7-realm innate ferocious bodies. Although this kid hasn't survived the most calamities, he's the most extraordinary one. Therefore, I'm very curious. What kind of change will he undergo this time?" P.S. Chapter 4. Third Master. Chapter 32:61. Inside the Eye of Destruction was a miraculous world. It was not like a pit, but an independent world. This place was very beautiful, and could even be said to be very gorgeous and mysterious. It wasn't dark here because there were countless colorful airflows flowing inside. They were like meteors drifting by, and also like groups of fireflies dancing inside. It was very beautiful and gorgeous. Tens of thousands of rainbow-colored balls of air dragged long tails as they swam quickly inside, causing the space inside to flicker. It was strange. The xianxi in heaven and earth was thick. Luli had noticed that all the xianxi in heaven and earth in the world of destruction was swarming toward this place. Maybe it was because the world of destruction was constantly absorbing xianxi, which was why the xianxi was so thick. There were many skeletons in this space, tens of thousands. Many of the skeletons were glowing in a golden glow. Clearly, they belonged to powerful warriors. The horror of this place was evident. Many of the skeletons had some black bugs crawling on them. It was a spooky sight. In the middle of the skeletons, there was a man floating. There was a faint layer of blue light around the figure. It looked like a suit of armor, but the light from the blue armor was very weak. It looked like it could disappear at any time. The man's breathing was weak, almost inaudible, as if he could die at any moment. His body was being pushed around by the streams of colorful air. He was like a piece of driftwood in the sea, moving up and down. Luli was not dead. He was not even in a coma. He had been conscious. He was just weak, so weak that he could not even move his fingers. He had used the fleeting skill twice, which consumed a large amount of origin energy. This was not only the origin energy of life, but also the fundamental origin of a human body. Not only his body, but his soul was weak as well. He had never been so weak in his entire life. He could tell that the energy of the artifact given to him by Emperor Yin was running out. In a day or two at most, it would lose its effect. The colorful air streams kept hitting at him. Every time, the energy of his armor would be drained. He knew he was in grave danger. But what else could he do? He could not even move his fingers. He could not even take out some elixirs to consume. He used psychic power to check the surroundings. He saw many floating skeletons. He felt those were his future. Maybe in a few days, he would become a skeleton and float here forever. I have to think of a way to save myself. Luli tried his best to mobilize the swirl in the realm of magic, trying to absorb the energy of destruction. However, because of the blue armor, The energy of destruction could not enter his body. Therefore, Luli could not absorb it. He was not sure if he could absorb the power of destruction, so he could only wait for the blue armor to disappear. However, what if the power of destruction instantly destroyed his body the moment the blue armor disappeared? What if he couldn't absorb it? Anything was possible. Luli could only wait for the judgment of the heavens. Soon, a day and a half passed. Finally, the blue armor was gone. There were currents of destruction coming at him all the time. Luli's nerves were strained to the extreme. He used all his strength to activate the whirlpool in the spell world. The whirlpool spun madly. When the destructive power hit his body, a strong suction force came from the spell world. The destructive power was instantly sucked into the spell world. Even though Luli was sucked in instantly, the destructive energy was not like venom. It was not a big problem for the venom to stay in Luli's body for a while. He would be fine as long as the venom was absorbed into the Dharma realm. Luli's body was strong. Average venom could not inflict much harm on him. But this destructive energy was different. This was the origin of destruction, which was horrifying. Otherwise, so many powerful warriors wouldn't have died. Only one warrior, who was infinitely close to the consummate realm, escaped and went mad not long after he went out. Luli screamed from the depths of his soul. He wanted to shout it out, but he didn't have the strength to do so. The destructive energy entered the spell world from the outside and passed through his body. His abdomen and back were shredded. 2 bloody holes appeared. Not only his flesh and blood were destroyed, but his bones and marrow were destroyed as well. There was only a big hole left in his abdomen, which looked horrifying. As the destructive energy surged in, the hole in his abdomen grew larger. If he could not think of a way, Luli's chest would disappear soon, followed by his legs, neck, and then his head. In the end, there would be nothing left of his body but a pellet. Luli was panicking. The thing was, he could not move. What could he do? He could only watch as the bloody hole grew bigger and bigger. While he was enduring the pain, he had to enjoy the feeling of waiting for death. It was hard to bear. The feeling of helplessness and desperation could break a person down. Luli forced himself to calm down. Haste would not solve anything. It would only hasten his death. Hundreds of ideas flashed across his mind. He was trying to come up with a solution. I got it. His heart skipped a beat. He thought of a way, which was to suck his soul into the soul-devouring bead. First, he could protect his soul and then rebuild his body. No, soon, Luli vetoed the idea. To build a physical body, he would need powerful items or at least top-level materials. Later on, his physical body, interspatial rings, and interspatial artifacts would all be destroyed. Where could he find the top-level materials to rebuild his body? Also, the soul-devouring race might not be able to stand the destructive energy. By then, their souls would be destroyed as well. Then, there's only one way. Luli thought about it and realized that there was only one way, which was to rebuild his body, to be destroyed and reborn. Only in this way could he have a chance of survival. But what could he use to rebuild his body? He could not even move his fingers. There were top-level materials in his interspatial rings, but he could not use them. To rebuild his body, he would need at least a large amount of energy. If there were thunderbolts here, it would be fine. But here, there was only the energy of destruction. There was some energy in his realm of magic. Unfortunately, those were purple divine liquid and toxins, which could not rebuild his body. After much thought, Luli realized that he had reached a dead end again. The energy of destruction was surging in. The hole in Luli's abdomen was getting bigger. He felt his life force was slipping away. He was already weak, and now he was getting weaker. He could smell the scent of death. Astro Emperor. Outside the eye of destruction, Astro Emperor sensed Luli's situation. He was even more worried. He could not help but say, "If you don't do something, Luli will die." There is nothing he can do under such circumstances. Then this is his fate. Astro Emperor shook his head calmly. The cursed ones of the 7 realms will either soar up or perish forever. Over half of the cursed ones of the 7 realms that we have found have died. Have you seen any of them that I have saved? This is their fate. Maybe This eye of destruction will be Lu Li's burial ground. Master 3. Chapter 3262. 2 hours for hours. Not only was Lu Li's abdomen gone, his chest was gone as well. His body was divided into 3 parts: the upper body, the lower body, and the divine elixir. Lu Li had lost all sense of pain. His mind was filled with despair because there was nothing he could do to stop the destructive energy from hurting his body. His hands were still there, as was his space ring. There were many top-grade divine medicines in his space ring, but what use was that? He was so weak that he couldn't even move. The only thing he could move now was his soul. He watched helplessly as his lower abdomen was crushed, and then his legs were crushed. His heart was dead silent. The danger this time was too great. It was not something that could be overcome by putting his life on the line. This was like a mortal encountering a huge avalanche. No matter how hard he struggled, he was unable to resist the might of heaven and earth, and could only wait for death. At this moment, Lu Li felt like he was waiting for death. The body was the root, the soul was the origin, and the power was the source. Without a physical body or a soul, this cultivator would definitely die in the end. There was no surprise or suspense. Lu Li's physical body was about to be destroyed, and his soul would be gone as well. Not even an almighty immortal could save him. What else can we do? Is there any other way? Lu Li asked himself again and again. He could not move his body, so he could not protect it. Then he had to think of a way to protect his soul. As long as his soul was not destroyed, there was still a chance of survival. Perhaps there was a chance to reconstruct his physical body. Even if he could not reconstruct his physical body, at least there was a remnant of his soul left. Although he was a wandering ghost, at least he still had his consciousness and was not completely dead. How could the soul be preserved? Lu Li could suck his soul into the soul-devouring bead, but what if the soul-devouring race could not withstand the destructive force? Therefore, Lu Li was in a dilemma. If the soul-eater race could not stop them, then his soul would perish. Why don't we release the Thunder Tamer beast first? Whether it lives or dies depends on its luck, right? Lu Li ordered the Tribulation Thunder Beast. He told Blood Fairy to undo the patterns in the distant bead. The Tribulation Thunder Beast flew out and shrank to its smallest size. Lu Li told the Tribulation Thunder Beast to run away by itself and try its best to avoid the destructive force. Roar! After the Thunder Devastator Beast came out, it roared at the sky and flew into the distance, quickly avoiding the destructive power. Soon, it disappeared into the distance. Blood Fairy, you should also enter the spell realm. Before my soul is destroyed, I will remove the spiritual connection between us. Lu Li sent a message. Blood Fairy had entered the realm of magic as well. She was anxious, but she could not disobey Lu Li's order. Another half a day had passed. Lu Li didn't have to worry anymore. This was because he was only left with his head and a godly elixir. If he did not absorb his soul into the soul-devouring orb, his soul would be destroyed very soon. He could only harden his heart and activate the soul-devouring orb. Then his 3 souls and 6 spirits all entered the soul-devouring orb. Buzz, he activated the soul-devouring orb, and it flew out of his mind. This orb was a treasure of the soul and could be activated with soul power. Lu Li absorbed all his soul energy into the soul-devouring bead as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to activate the soul-devouring bead. This soul-devouring pearl was a top-grade holy weapon. Its defensive power should not be too bad, right? If he could withstand the power of destruction, he would at least be able to preserve his soul and have a chance of survival. He urged the soul-devouring orb to fly out of his head and near the divine elixir. He wanted to test if the power of destruction could destroy the soul-devouring orb. Near the divine elixir, the power of destruction would be weaker. In this way, the soul-devouring bead would be safer. There would be more power of destruction coming at him at all times. Most of the power would be absorbed by the Dharma realm in the divine elixir. Only a small amount of the power of destruction would be left outside. Otherwise, Lu Li's body would have been destroyed. No, When the soul-devouring bead was approaching the divine elixir, Luli noticed that the soul-devouring bead was glaring and then dimming down. If he were to be attacked for a while longer, the soul-devouring bead would explode. Both his body and soul would be destroyed. Luli's soul was filled with bitterness. He didn't expect that he would end up like this. Both his body and soul would be destroyed. Apart from the divine elixir, there would be nothing left of him. He wondered if the Dharma realm in the divine elixir would continue to absorb after he died. Would the Dharma realm change after absorbing so much power of destruction? Would it become a super big world? Would it turn into a land of treasures like the one around the dragon rebel race? What a pity for this Dharma realm. Luli sighed in his soul. The Dharma realm was strange, and he hadn't figured it out yet. He didn't expect that he had passed away. The Dharma realm would stay here forever until the Eye of Destruction was cracked or a warrior at the completion of the Dharma realm came in. Wait! At that moment, Luli remembered something. The soul-devouring bead could become intangible for a short period of time. Previously, the soul-devouring bead went into his head and flew out just now. If so, then the soul-devouring bead could go into the Dharma realm as well. As long as he was in the Dharma realm, his soul would be safe. Before the soul-devouring bead was destroyed, Luli flew it into the divine elixir. The soul-devouring bead entered the divine elixir and then entered the Dharma realm. Okay, Luli was relieved when he was in the Dharma realm. At least, his soul would not be preserved for a while. Even though his soul might be trapped here forever, at least his body and soul wouldn't be destroyed for the time being. He flew the soul-devouring bead around in the Dharma realm. The energy of destruction was sucked in and condensed. As long as he stayed away from the energy of destruction and the toxic liquid, his soul would not be harmed. What should I do next? Luli was confused. His head must have been crushed. That was to say, apart from the divine elixir, there was nothing left of his body. His interspatial rings and interspatial artifacts were gone as well. The body that he had been cultivating for so many years was destroyed, all in vain. Luli was filled with sorrow. He had been working so hard to get to where he was now, but in the end, he had to die here. He was not willing to accept this. The most important thing was that the Lu family was not settled down yet. If the Lu family could be settled down, then he wouldn't have so many regrets. Emperor Yin said that death would protect the Lu family whether Luli was dead or not. But if Luli died, death would no longer take special care of the Lu family. The Lu family did not have many powerful warriors. It would be difficult for the Lu family to rise. The death might take care of the Lu family for decades, centuries, or even thousands of years. Who would remember Luli? The Lu family could be destroyed just because of a foppish young master. If Lu Ling was smart enough, she could ask Yu Yang to send them back to the Middle King's universe. As long as the Red Dragon race did not go to the Middle King's universe, there would be hope for the Lu family to survive. Alas, I can't worry about that now. Chapter 3263. What? Astro Emperor and Blood Emperor were surprised when Lu Li's soul entered the realm of magic. Astro Emperor's eyes glowed as well. He frowned as if he could not figure out what was going on. Blood Emperor observed for a while and asked, Astro Emperor, what is going on? His soul has entered the realm of magic. This realm of magic is miraculous. It can absorb the energy of destruction. Astro Emperor, can you sense what is going on in the realm of magic? No. Astro Emperor shook his head. This realm of magic is strange. It was strange when it was formed. A fifth tribulation warrior can build a realm of magic directly. He is a freak. How long can his soul survive in the realm of magic? Blood Emperor asked, can he have a chance to rebuild his body? I remember that if a soul stays in the realm of magic for too long, the origin of the soul will dissipate. By then, the 3 primary souls will be gone, and only the 7 physical souls will be left. That will be the remnant souls. They will never be able to recover. Yes, Astro Emperor said with certainty. Judging by the strength of Lu Li's soul, in less than 30 years, his primary soul will dissipate. By then, he will be a wandering ghost. The remnant souls can last for tens of thousands of years. Of course, if his remnant souls come out, they will be crushed by the energy of destruction. This is the origin of destruction, not the average energy of destruction. 30 years? Blood Emperor touched his beard and said solemnly, Lu Li's soul has entered the realm of magic. I don't know what is going on, but he does not have any top-level materials. It is unlikely that he can rebuild his body in the realm of magic. I don't think he can escape this time. What is more, Blood Emperor sighed and shook his head again. Even if he can rebuild his soul and come out from the realm of magic, he will still be doomed. He cannot fight against the energy of destruction. Astro Emperor, are you sure you cannot help him? No. Astro Emperor shook his head. Master has given us an order. We are only observers and inspectors. We can only record the situation of all the 7 trials and report to her in time. We definitely cannot help any 7 tribulation heaven emanations. It's not like you don't know Lady's temper. If you violate her iron rule, you should know the consequences. Alas, Blood Emperor sighed again. He was confused. Lord, didn't you help Lu Li as well? Why did they leave Lu Li alone? Isn't Master too cold-blooded and heartless? Blood Emperor. Star Emperor's tone suddenly turned cold, and he scolded, Don't ever question His Excellency. Understand? Otherwise, don't blame me for being heartless. I misspoke. The Blood Emperor rubbed his nose in embarrassment. He sat down and said, Then let's wait here for 30 years. Let's see if he can reconstruct his fleshly body within 30 years. If it can't be reconstructed, then he can't be saved. And Astro Emperor stopped watching. He took out the chessboard and said with a smile, Come on, let's play a game of chess. Almost 30 years will pass. The 2 elders sat cross-legged on the ground, no longer paying attention to the situation in the Eye of Destruction, and focused on playing chess. They played very, very slowly. Sometimes, it was estimated that they would only place a chess piece after 1 or 2 years. If that was the case, it might really take 30 years to play a game of chess. What? On the other side of the Eye of Destruction, Immortal Hermit of the South Pole, who had been cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. 3 rays of light glowed in his eyes. He frowned and was surprised. After a moment, he stood up and walked over to the Eye of Destruction. He squinted his eyes and looked down. The chief patriarch who had been cultivating next to him opened his eyes as well. He walked over, stood next to Immortal Hermit of the South Pole, and asked, What is it? Immortal Hermit. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole said nothing. He closed his eyes to sense for a moment before he said, Lu Li's soul is gone. Gone? The chief patriarch was surprised. Then he asked, Are you saying that Lu Li is dead? I'm not sure. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole shook his head. There are only 2 explanations. Either Lu Li's soul is gone, or his soul or body has entered a strange place that even I cannot sense. A place that even you cannot sense. The chief patriarch asked with uncertainty, Is there a place in the entire chaotic star region that you cannot sense? Yes. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole said with certainty, for example, the Enlightenment realm. If the warrior I am tracking has entered the Enlightenment realm, then I cannot sense it from the outside. Also, the Eternal realm. I cannot sense the Dharma realms made by warriors at the consummate level. Understand now. The chief patriarch understood now. The Dharma realms made by consummate level warriors were flawless. It was normal that he could not sense it. But was there such a Dharma realm in the Eye of Destruction? Even if there was, Lu Li's chi and energy were so weak that he must be half dead. The Eye of Destruction was filled with destructive energy. Lu Li wouldn't be able to move an inch. The chief patriarch thought for a while and asked, Immortal Hermit, what do you think is the possibility that this punk is dead? Immortal Hermit of the South Pole's shirt fluttered. After a while, he said, More than 70%. After all, this punk is only an Emperor Realm warrior. This is a shortcoming. Then there is no problem. The chief patriarch put on a light smile. He didn't capture Lu Li, but he was sure that Lu Li was dead. This was a relief for him. He had accomplished a major task and wiped out a formidable enemy. Wait for another year? The chief patriarch was still worried. He said with a smile, "Immortal hermit, can you stay here for a year? If there is no problem after a year, we will leave." "Sure." Immortal hermit of the South Pole nodded. 1 year was too short for him. It would pass in a blink when he cultivated. He wanted to make sure as well. Otherwise, if Luli escaped, it would be a great loss to his reputation. Immortal hermit of the South Pole went back to the hill and sat with his legs crossed. The chief patriarch crushed a jade talisman. Several hours later, an Emperor Realm warrior came. It was a top-level scout of the Rainbow Race. "Greetings, Chief Patriarch." The Emperor Realm warrior dropped to one knee. The Chief Patriarch of the Rainbow Race waved his hand and said, "Rise. Report to our family patriarch." The Chief Patriarch threw out a jade talisman and said, "Immortal Hermit said that Lu Li's soul might have dissipated. To be on the safe side, we will stay here for a year. Tell our family patriarch to go to the Heavenland universe and find out the situation of the Lu family first. Then, we will think of a way to kill them. Leave no one alive. Kill them all." Luli had killed too many Rainbow Race warriors. If Luli was still alive, the Chief Patriarch wouldn't think about getting back at the Lu family. Now, it was highly likely that Luli was dead. Naturally, the Chief Patriarch of the Rainbow Race wanted revenge. It was true that death could protect the Lu family, but the Rainbow Race had suffered a great loss. They were disgraced. How could the Chief Patriarch of the Rainbow Race be satisfied without wiping out the Lu family? How could the Rainbow Race regain their dignity? "Don't worry, Chief Patriarch." The Emperor Realm warrior nodded and said with hatred, "We will not give up even if we are under the protection of death. We will kill every single one of the Lu family, even if we have to pay with our lives." End of this chapter. Chapter 3264. At the Tianyuan city, Imo Qianqian and Yu Yang were sitting in a castle. They had been sitting there for a while, but they didn't say anything, as if they were waiting for something. After half a day, an old man in a black robe came in. He bowed to Imo Qianqian and Yu Yang and casually reported, "The latest information is here. Lu Li has entered the Eye of Destruction. The Rainbow Race Master and the powerful warriors of the Hu race have left. But as of today, Lu Li's Jade Talisman of Life is still intact. He is not dead yet." Eye of Destruction? Imo Qianqian and Yu Yang looked at each other. Their expressions were even more awful. They had received news that the immortal hermit of the South Pole was on the move, so they were nervous. Now that they got the news, they were even more nervous. The Eye of Destruction was famous. Some powerful warriors of the Grim Reaper had gone in to check, but almost all of them died. Only one Grim Reaper was lucky enough to escape. That being said, his origin energy was severely damaged as well. He could not be saved. After he came out, he passed away after leaving some words. For Imo, Qianqian, and Yu Yang, the Eye of Destruction was a dangerous place. They would die for sure. Even Yin's sovereign and one of the 9 powerful warriors might not be able to come out, let alone them. Even though Lu Li's Jade Talisman of Life was still intact, Imo Qianqian and Yu Yang didn't think Lu Li could come out alive. Even if Lu Li could survive in there for a while, he would still die in the end. "Don't worry too much," the old man in the black robe said. "Entering the Eye of Destruction is the idea of the higher-ups. Only by entering here can Lu Li have a chance of survival. Otherwise, he will not be able to escape." The idea of the higher-ups? Imo Qianqian and Yu Yang calmed down a bit. The higher-ups must have their own ideas to allow Lu Li to enter the Eye of Destruction. The higher-ups would not act rashly. There must be a deeper meaning behind this. There was a chance that Lu Li could survive. "There is one more thing," the old man reminded. "According to our information, the Rainbow Race has sent out many top-level scouts. They must be coming to the Tianyuan city and the Heavenland region. They might be targeting Lu Li's people." "All right, we got it." Yu Yang nodded and waved his hand for the old man to withdraw. Yu Yang pondered for a moment before saying, "Skirich City is fine, but I don't believe that the Rainbow Race's martial artists would dare to cause trouble at my residence. As for the clansmen in Tianlu City, they won't be easy to manage. After all, the higher-ups will definitely not agree to send experts to guard Tianlu boundary. Then there's only one way, Mo Qianqian said. Didn't the Lu family members learn assassin skills for a period of time? Break them up into smaller groups and send them to all the realms of our death god to hide themselves. Whether they can survive or not will depend on their luck. Also, the rainbow race can't possibly send a large number of experts to all of our realms, right? Sure. Yang nodded his head. After all, the Grim Reaper was extremely famous. Every boundary had experts guarding it. Even if the rainbow race sent some experts, they could only sneak in as assassins. In this way, it would be extremely difficult to assassinate the Lu family. The experts from every boundary wouldn't just sit back and watch. Of course, this would require the approval of Grim Reaper's higher-ups. Yin Emperor should be back by now, right? Let's go and find Yin Emperor. Yu Yang and Mo Qianqian stood up and walked outside. They quickly found Emperor Yin. The latter listened to their suggestions and pondered for a moment before nodding. I will talk to the higher-ups about this. Whether it succeeds or not will depend on luck. Okay, Mo Qianqian and Yu Yang were relieved. Yin Emperor enjoyed a high status in the Grim Reaper. This was not a big deal. The higher-ups wouldn't say anything if Yin Emperor was here. Sure enough, half a day later, Yin Emperor came back and the higher-ups agreed. After all, Lu Li was still alive. The Grim Reaper didn't protect the Lu family disciples. The Lu family could sneak into the other universes by themselves. This was not a violation of the agreement. As for the powerful warriors of the Rainbow Race going to the other universes, if they had conflicts with the Grim Reaper, it would be out of the Grim Reaper's hands. After all, the Grim Reaper was made up of assassins, and assassins had extreme personalities. It was normal for the Grim Reaper to kick you out when you entered their territory. The headquarters of the Grim Reaper couldn't give the order. The Lu family and the other major families had been training for almost 2 years. It was not a long time, and the warriors of the major families were weak. But they were top-level assassins after all. As trainers, they worked hard. They had no other choice. This was a matter of life and death. Therefore, during this time, most of the warriors of the major families have been making rapid progress. It was not in their fighting abilities, but in their skills as assassins. For example, camouflage, stealth, escape, poison, hidden weapons, and so on. The top-level assassins of the Grim Reaper were proficient in all kinds of survival skills. A top-level assassin must have survival and assassination skills. Only by surviving could the assassins be assassinated. After the assassination, the assassins had to find a way to survive. In order to survive and to kill, the assassins would think of all kinds of methods. They would resort to all kinds of despicable and shameless means. There was no virtue in the Book of Assassins. There was only survival and killing the enemy. The 70 to 80,000 warriors of the major families split up and went to dozens of universes ruled by the Grim Reaper. Their identities were disguised as well. They had all disguised themselves as martial artists of other races. Even a Saint Emperor would not be able to see through their disguises. Of course, the top-level assassins could. But the assassins of the Grim Reaper respected Lu Li's men because they respected Lu Li. After the battle at the immortal Rainbow City, Lu Li's name was known throughout the Chaotic Star region. He challenged a major family by himself. An Emperor Realm warrior challenged a major family with 3 warriors who were infinitely close to the completion and hundreds of Saint Emperors. For many Grim Reaper, this was impossible. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Even Emperor Yin would be killed by the Rainbow Race soon, let alone Lu Li. Lu Li had done a good job. Not only did he kill many warriors and Saint Emperors of the Rainbow Race, he destroyed the immortal Rainbow Mountain. Even when pursued by so many powerful warriors of the Rainbow Race, he broke into several cities. He came and went without a trace. He killed whoever he wanted. This was rarely seen in the history of the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper had been around for millions of years. Only a few such freaks had appeared. Lu Li had made the Grim Reaper proud. Naturally, he had made the assassins of the Grim Reaper proud as well. Lu Li's glorious achievements had won them over. Naturally, they would take care of Lu Li's family and friends. The Grim Reaper with a loose force, and the assassins were not on good terms with each other. However, when the families and friends of the Grim Reaper were in trouble or in danger, the other Grim Reapers would help. That was because the Grim Reaper could die at any time. Many Grim Reapers had families and friends. If you helped others today, others would help your family and friends when you died. Therefore, even though the headquarters of the Grim Reaper did not give any orders, the 70 to 80,000 warriors of the major families under Lu Li's command were scattered to dozens of universes and disappeared. The dozens universes ruled by the Grim Reaper looked similar to the universes outside. However, there were powerful assassins everywhere. If the powerful warriors of the Rainbow Race dared to sneak in, the consequences would not be good. Third Sect Master. Chapter 3265. Luli was confused. Of course, anyone who had lost their physical body and was left with only their soul would be confused as well. Luli did not know how long his soul could stay like this, but he could clearly feel that his soul was getting weaker after it left his physical body. The weakening was slow, but it was evident. The physical body was the root, and the soul was the root. Without the soul, the physical body would become the walking dead. When the soul left the physical body, it would become a rootless duckweed. An average person would have perished. The soul of a powerful warrior could be preserved for a while, but not for long. Luli was panicking. He didn't know what to do. Even though he could control the soul-devouring bead to fly around, he felt like he had become a wandering ghost. The Dharma realm had already become very big. At the moment, it was estimated to be millions of miles wide. But the realm of magic was barren. There was nothing. Apart from the source of energy, the toxic liquid, the purple divine liquid, and the energy of destruction that had just come in, there was nothing else. Well, the realm of magic seems to be absorbing Shui Qi in heaven and earth. Luli sensed that the realm of magic was absorbing Shui Qi like crazy. Maybe it was because the Shui Qi outside was too rich. But what was the point of absorbing more Shui Qi for him? Apart from the increase in source of energy, nothing else mattered. Building a physical body with source of energy? Luli had thought about it, but it was not possible. To build a physical body, top-level materials were needed, and Luli knew some of them. For example, there was a kind of human immortal fruit, which was a top-level treasure for building a physical body. Many destroyed physical bodies would be rebuilt with human immortal fruit. Some warriors even thought their own physical bodies were not good enough, so they built a new one and started from scratch. There were also some top-level materials. Luli could find someone to buy them for him if he was outside. But here, there was nothing he could do. If there were strong thunderbolts, he could find a way to build a physical body. Thunderbolts had the ability of destruction and rebirth. It was a pity that there was nothing here. Purple divine liquid? Purple divine liquid could only strengthen the physical body and soul. Toxic liquid? That was more poisonous. The energy of destruction? Not even a 3-year-old would believe in building a physical body with the energy of destruction. Not even Lu Li himself. Of course, it would not work. That was the energy of destruction, not the energy of life. After thinking for a month, Lu Li still didn't know what to do. He could not go out. Once he controlled the soul-devouring orb to go out, he would be torn to pieces by the endless destructive power outside. Besides, even if he went out, what could he do? Other than the power of destruction, this eye of destruction only contained bones and some insects. Could it be that it was made from bones? Or was it condensed from insects? Should I split a strand of my soul, remembrance to investigate? Luli had seen a secret skill of the soul that could cultivate a strand of soul power to explore. Of course, this soul remembrance couldn't be maintained for too long, so the range it could detect was only a few tens of thousands of kilometers. Give it a try. Luli had nothing to do here anyway. He began to cultivate his soul power. In 3 or 4 days, he had generated 1 strand of soul power. He controlled his soul remembrance to fly out. However, not long after his soul remembrance flew out, it was immediately torn apart by the destructive power. Useless! Luli gave up. The energy of destruction was overwhelming. It was everywhere. There was nowhere to hide. He wondered if the Thunder Torment beast would be of any use if it died. He had cut off the spiritual connection with the Tribulation Thunder Beast. He didn't know if it was alive or not. But Luli believed that the Tribulation Thunder Beast was dead. There was so much destructive power. No matter how strong the Tribulation Thunder Beast was, it must have died. Luli had nothing to do again. After a few days, he felt he was losing his mind. He couldn't go on like this. He might lose his mind. After all, he was not one of those old guys who could endure loneliness. He had lived through a long time and had a strong mind. There were still many evil thoughts in his mind. If he kept on thinking, he might really lose his mind. Since he couldn't overthink, he must find something to do to calm himself down for a while. Study the secret skill of soul. There was nothing Luli could do except to study the secret skill of soul. He had no physical body, so he couldn't cultivate it. He didn't have any elixirs either, so he couldn't cultivate his soul. Also, what was the point even if he could cultivate his soul? He couldn't keep his soul from being destroyed forever, could he? Luli had to start cultivating the secret skill of soul. He randomly picked one just to let himself forget some things and calm down for a while. Time flew by quickly. Soon, Luli had been in there for a year. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole opened his eyes on time, and so did the Chief Patriarch. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole said seriously, "It's been a year and nothing has happened. He must be dead. Then let's go back to the immortal rainbow universe." The Chief Patriarch nodded. It was pointless to stay here. It had been a year. Luli could not be alive. But to be on the safe side, the Chief Patriarch called in a scout and mobilized more than a dozen great Emperor Realm warriors to stay here. When the great Emperor Realm warriors arrived, Immortal Hermit of the South Pole and the Chief Patriarch left. They took a battleship back to the immortal rainbow universe. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole was warmly welcomed by the Rainbow Race Leader. At the same time, the Rainbow Race Leader made an announcement confirming that Luli had been killed. They asked Immortal Hermit of the South Pole to go after Luli, and he could testify that Luli had been killed. Such an announcement could not restore the Rainbow Race's fallen reputation. At the very least, it could prove that the Rainbow Race had killed their enemy. Revenge had been taken. The Heavenly God City was in an uproar. Many warriors were still betting on when Luli would make a move. They didn't expect that Luli was dead. This was a great loss for the Rainbow Race. With Luli's death, many of their bets would be confiscated by the dealer. Therefore, many warriors began a clamor, asking the Rainbow Race to hand over Luli's body. What if they could prove that Luli was dead? How could the Rainbow Race hand over Luli's body? There was no body. Therefore, the Rainbow Race didn't care. They merely said that Luli's body was torn up and that Immortal Hermit of the South Pole could testify that Luli was dead. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole was famous, but those warriors didn't care. Could it be that they could just find a random, powerful warrior to testify? Could it be that the Rainbow Race had been wiped out if they could find a powerful warrior and say that the Rainbow Race had been wiped out? The warriors began to clamor. All kinds of rumors were flying around. At the same time, many warriors started to spread rumors, saying that the Rainbow Race was weak and that they were lying because they couldn't kill Luli. Not only were the Rainbow Race weak, but they also had bad morals. In short, all kinds of negative news were flying everywhere. The reputation of the Rainbow Race had already plummeted, and now it became even worse. Even the Who race was implicated, and their reputation became much worse. The young masters and young ladies of the Heavenly God City were disappointed. They had an agreement with Luli in half a year. Now that Luli was dead, what was the point of them staying here? Let's go. Lady Yuan was disappointed. She had imagined how she would humiliate Luli and how she would kill him. She didn't expect that Luli would die like this. Her heart was empty. She didn't want to stay here anymore. She left in a hurry with the powerful warriors of the Guam race. Master 3. Chapter 3266. Because of Luli's death, the commotion gradually died down. All the young masters and young ladies left, as did the warriors and scouts. The immortal rainbow universe quieted down as well. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole left, and the Rainbow Race began to clean up the mess. Looking at the ruined cities and the devastated immortal Rainbow Mountain, the tribe leader of the Rainbow Race felt like weeping, but no tears would come. How was the investigation going? Standing on the ruins of the immortal Rainbow Mountain, the tribe leader of the Rainbow Race turned to the three patriarchs of the Rainbow Race. The latter nodded and said, "The investigation is almost done, but the situation is a bit complicated. Lu Li's family and relatives, as well as the core warriors of several families under him, are all in the Tianyues city now. They are in the Yu family's manor. Yu Yang is still living in this village. If we want to assassinate him, we will be making an enemy out of the Yu family. The god of death is breaking the agreement?" The tribe leader of the Rainbow Race snorted. "Is he not afraid that we will ask the Hu race to trouble them?" "I don't think we can ask the Hu race." The three patriarchs of the Rainbow Race shook their heads and sighed. The Hu race's reputation has been affected. They will not be happy if we ask them for help for such a trivial matter. So the tribe leader of the Rainbow Race asked, "What about the others?" "I don't think they are all at the Tianyues city." The Tianyues city was the headquarters of the god of death. No matter how many powerful warriors they sent there, they would be courting death. Even if the three of them were close to the consummate realm, they would still be doomed if they went there. "No." The three patriarchs of the Rainbow Race shook their heads. He said, "The others are scattered and have snuck into the universes of the god of death. We have talked to the god of death about this." The headquarters of the god of death responded that they ran away on their own. The headquarters of the god of death could not interfere. After all of Lu Li's people are god of death now, and they can go to any universe. Shameless. The tribe leader of the Rainbow Race was enraged. His eyes flickered as he said coldly, "Go and hire assassins from several organizations. Give them the information and tell them that killing one of Lu Li's people will cost 100 million celestial stones. They have 70 or 80,000 people, right? We can afford 7 or 8 trillion celestial stones. How can the Rainbow Race keep a foothold in the chaotic universe if we don't take revenge?" The Rainbow Race's third elder, was a little hesitant. The Rainbow Race had suffered such a huge loss this time, and so many of their experts had perished. Now, they were spending so many celestial stones to assassinate some Lu clansmen who posed no threat. He felt that it was too much of a loss. He said, "Clan King, I think we should forget about it. We've lost so much this time, we can't hold on for much longer. The clansmen of the Lu clan are all low-level warriors. Many of them have undergone 4 or 5 tribulations. There's no point in killing them." "You're wrong," the leader of the Rainbow Race said in an unquestionable tone. "What is the foundation of a great race? It was prestige and strength. This time we lost a lot of our strength, but the 3 of us didn't die, so we didn't hurt our foundation. However, we have lost a lot of prestige. Now, our clan has become the laughingstock of the chaotic starfields. If we can't bring back Lu Li's body, we will have to make up for it in other ways." "That's right," the Rainbow Race's Grand Elder said. "Tribe King is right. We are seeking revenge not only to vent our anger, but also to let the forces in the chaotic starfields know one thing. We will kill anyone who dares to go against the Rainbow Race at all costs. We're not killing the people of the Lu clan. We're killing the big clans that have designs on us. We can afford a few trillion celestial stones. As long as we can deter the other forces, it will be worth it to spend billions of celestial stones." "I see." The 3 founding patriarchs nodded and said, "Okay, I will make the arrangements now. Also, we will negotiate openly with the Grim Reaper. They have an agreement with us that they will not interfere in the fight between us and the Lu family. If we send assassins after the Lu family, they will not interfere. If the Grim Reaper interfered, then no matter how many celestial stones they spent, no assassins would dare to enter the Grim Reaper's territory. The Grim Reaper was the king of the world of assassins. Assassins from other assassin organizations wouldn't dare to mess around." The 3 founding patriarchs went to make the arrangements. Soon, all the assassin organizations received the Rainbow Race's list. A warrior who had undergone 4 or 5 tribulations was worth 100 million celestial stones. Countless assassins were instantly excited, especially those low-grade assassins. Normally, it was harder for them to earn some celestial stones. The 3 founding patriarchs and the Grim Reaper had also received a clear answer. The Grim Reaper officials would not interfere in the fight between the Rainbow Race and the Lu family. The Rainbow Race's martial artists could also enter the Grim Reaper's territory to search on their own. Of course, the Rainbow Race's martial artists could not wantonly destroy or attack other Grim Reapers. If not, they would anger the other domain's assassins. The Rainbow Race would not care. After receiving the Grim Reaper's clear answer, countless assassins from the assassin organizations were instantly excited. The 60 to 70,000 clansmen of the Lu family were like piles of celestial stones in the eyes of these assassins. 6 to 7 trillion celestial stones were waiting for them to collect. The Lu family's battle strength was very low. They were like lambs. As long as they could find these lambs, it would be equivalent to obtaining countless celestial stones. This news quickly spread throughout the heavenly chaotic star regions. The Rainbow Race had intentionally spread this news. The Rainbow Race announced that no matter which clan or faction they belonged to, as long as they could take the head of a Lu family member, they could come to the Rainbow Race to collect the bounty. The Rainbow Race also hoped that the Death God's assassins would do it themselves. After all, the Lu family members had infiltrated the various domains of the Death God. If the Death God's own assassins were to make a move, none of the Lu family members would be able to escape. There was actually another reason for spreading this news. It was to send a message to the entire heavenly chaotic star regions. If anyone offended the Rainbow Race, they would do everything they could to kill their entire clan. Once this news spread, countless martial artists immediately rushed towards the Death God's domain. If the Death God officials did not interfere, wouldn't the Lu family members be like lambs waiting to be slaughtered? Many of the Death God's assassins were also tempted. However, after Mo Chantian secretly sent a message, none of the Death God's assassins dared to make a move. Mo Chantian sent a message. The Death Gods that she thought of were all Death Gods that had pride and honor. They would not bow down for even half a bucket of rice. If they did not have pride, then they were not fit to be a member of the Death God. Mo Chantian's words were very vague, but the meaning was very clear. Whoever dared to touch the Lu family members was not fit to be the Death God. Mo Chantian was a little demon girl with countless admirers. If they offended this young lady, not only would they not be able to stay in the Death God, but they would also be beheaded. Yu Yang quickly sent a message. He agreed with Mo Chantian's words. Honor was very important. The Death God's dignity was not to be challenged. As the Death Gods, they were all martial artists that did unspeakable things every day. Their comprehension ability was very strong. The hidden meaning behind Yu Yang's message was to call on all the Death Gods to take action on their own. They would think of ways to kill the assassins that entered and let them know the consequences of challenging the Death God's dignity. In reality, even without Yu Yang's message, many of the Death Gods in the other domains were already rubbing their palms. Who dared to enter their domain? These assassins and assassins from the other factions were hanging themselves. Were they tired of living? The third sect master. Chapter 3267. Strange Heaven Domain was a domain controlled by the Mo clan. This domain was huge and had tens of thousands of cities and billions of citizens. There were hundreds of main cities here, and in each city there were countless warriors and powerhouses. The Lu clan had hidden thousands of clansmen in this domain. In such a huge domain, a few thousand people were like a group of small fish in a huge lake. How difficult would it be to find them? The Lu clan's martial artists were all divided into groups. Each group had 10 members, and they would find their own places to infiltrate. Some of them would infiltrate a merchant association, some would infiltrate a tribe, some would enter a mine, and some would disguise themselves as apprentices. In such a huge domain, and with so many cities, it was too easy to infiltrate. Today, a group of martial artists had infiltrated the Strange Heaven Domain. This group of martial artists didn't look special, and looked like ordinary martial artists. They were like mud flowing into the sea as they easily infiltrated the cities and disappeared. They were all assassins from an assassin organization. Originally, they thought it would be difficult to infiltrate the strange heaven domain. They didn't expect it to be so easy. Furthermore, the martial artists in the cities didn't seem to discover their identities. As they walked in the cities, no experts paid attention to them. Not bad, not bad. 3 or 4 assassins walked around the cities and were very satisfied. They found an inn to rest for a while and to scout for information. Finally, they found the clansmen of the Liu clan and started to assassinate them. When they entered the inn, a few martial artists hurriedly walked out of the inn. The one in front was a young master dressed in luxurious robes. He seemed to be drunk and was swaying left and right. A few assassins frowned slightly and moved to the side as they didn't want to bump into this young master. However, at this moment, this young master's body swayed a few times before he started to vomit. Furthermore, he vomited on an assassin's face. This assassin was instantly infuriated as he cursed. The young master was already drunk. When he heard someone cursing him, he immediately drew his battle saber and slashed at an assassin, courting death. A few subordinates beside the young master didn't say anything else and drew their weapons. Then in just a few moves, they effortlessly chopped the assassins into pieces. Who dares to use force in the city? There was an angry roar as countless city guards surrounded the young master and his subordinates and escorted them to the city lord residence. However, when this young master entered the city lord residence, the soldiers immediately untied him and greeted him with smiles. They nodded and bowed before sending him out from the back door. Such a scene was happening in countless cities in the strange heaven domain. The entire strange heaven domain was filled with assassins and assassins. Assassins were the best at gathering information. The moment the assassins outside came in, they were all locked down. All kinds of disputes, all kinds of coincidences, all kinds of scams. In short, all kinds of methods were used. The goal was to make the assassins from the outside clash with the local martial artists. Once there was a conflict, the local martial artists wouldn't care and would of it. Of the local martial artists of the strange domain would kill. In just half a month, the thousands of assassins that entered the heavenly wondrous realm had all disappeared without a trace. At the same time, this scene was also playing out in the other realms. This time, at least hundreds of thousands of martial artists from the major assassin organizations had come, and they were all secretly entering the major realms. This scene was happening in other universes as well. This time, the assassin organizations sent at least hundreds of thousands of martial artists into different universes secretly. However, these martial artists were like moths to the flame. Once they went in, they would all disappear without a trace. They wanted to go in and kill the Liu clan's martial artists to obtain some celestial stones. However, all of them died, and only a few of them managed to escape. Of course, Liu Li's martial artists of the family suffered casualties. Some of them were assassinated. Thousands of them died. Some of them were even killed by the martial artists of the Grim Reaper. After all, many of them were weak. Accidents were bound to happen. Only 4,000 or 5,000 out of 70 to 80,000 martial artists died. This was already a good result. 3 months later, more than a dozen assassin organizations stopped and didn't dare to send any more assassins. They went to the rainbow race in anger and demanded compensation for their losses. Otherwise, they would assassinate the martial artists of the rainbow race. 3 months later, more than a dozen assassin organizations quieted down and didn't dare to send more assassins. They went to the rainbow race in anger and asked them to compensate for their losses. Otherwise, they would assassinate the martial artists of the rainbow race. The higher-ups of the Grim Reaper sent the Yin Emperor to negotiate. The Yin Emperor took out a pile of documents, which were the reports from the cities. The upper echelons of the Grim Reaper sent Emperor Yin to negotiate. Emperor Yin took out a stack of documents, which were all reports from the major cities. The Rainbow Race's powerful warrior smiled. Tens of thousands of documents could be forged. What was the use of the documents? The Yin Emperor said righteously. The officials of the Grim Reaper didn't give any orders. nor did they take part in any actions against the assassins. The Grim Reaper's officials didn't give any orders, nor did they participate in any actions against the assassins. All the major universes were Grim Reapers. The Grim Reaper had a bad temper. Conflicts were inevitable. The cities had punished the assassins who acted recklessly. The major universes were slaughtered. The powerful warriors of the Rainbow Race and the Hu race didn't believe the Yin Emperor's words. But what could they do? Were they going to fight the Grim Reaper? The Rainbow Race was not strong enough. The Hu race didn't want to fight such a powerful force, either. Since they couldn't fight or negotiate, what else could they do? They had to admit that they were unlucky. The Rainbow Race and the Hu race's powerful warriors pestered the Sky Eclipse City. The Yin Emperor was like a dead pig that didn't fear boiling water. The Hu race and the Rainbow Race's powerful warriors had no choice but to retreat. The representatives of the dozen assassin organizations went to the immortal Rainbow World. The Rainbow Race's mission this time was 100 million celestial stones per head. They didn't have any gains, but so many assassins had died. The assassin organizations had suffered huge losses, and they were naturally unhappy. Since they couldn't offend the Grim Reaper, did they have to be afraid of the Rainbow Race? The Rainbow Race tribe leader was enraged. They didn't have any gains this time. The Rainbow Race's mission had become a joke. Now, a group of assassin organizations that hadn't done anything were asking for celestial stones. The Rainbow Race tribe leader was already very angry recently. These assassin organizations were just small organizations, and they actually dared to extort the Rainbow Race. The Rainbow Race tribe leader sent the guests off on the spot. The dozen assassin organizations were enraged. The Rainbow Race had promised that the Grim Reaper wouldn't make a move. They didn't expect the Grim Reaper to make a move. Moreover, he was ruthless, causing them to suffer such heavy losses. Now, the Rainbow Race tribe leader not only didn't want to compensate them, but he also didn't want to give them any face. The dozen or so assassin organizations, formidable martial artists, immediately left the immortal Rainbow World. Following that, their assassins started to move and entered the various domains of the Rainbow Race. By the time the Rainbow Race received the news, many assassins had already infiltrated the various domains. The Rainbow Race hurriedly mobilized their armies and formidable martial artists to deal with them. However, the Rainbow Race wasn't the Grim Reaper. Those assassins couldn't find them at all. A tragedy happened very quickly. The various domains controlled by the Rainbow Race were attacked by countless assassins. Almost all the cities were in a mess. Assassinations were happening everywhere. Smoke rose everywhere, and blood flowed like rivers. Third Sect Master. Chapter 3268. The Rainbow Race was in a miserable state. Those assassins weren't hired by anyone. They were acting on their own. They didn't have a clear goal this time. They just wanted to destroy, assassinate, burn, kill, pillage, and commit all sorts of crimes. In short, they wanted to make the Rainbow Race miserable. Many assassins didn't have a bottom line. Moreover, they were very familiar with evil deeds. They were creatures that walked in the darkness and were very good at doing such despicable things. The dozens of domains controlled by the Rainbow Race were in a tragic state. Countless cities were flooded with blood, and many cities were destroyed. During this period of time, the number of martial artists that died had reached a few hundred million. The losses were uncountable. Many citizens were frightened. They could only move their families away from the domains controlled by the Rainbow Race. After all, they were just ordinary citizens. It didn't matter where they went. The Rainbow Race was infuriated. Countless experts were mobilized to search for those assassins. However, before the experts of the Rainbow Race arrived, the assassins all scattered into the wilderness. Moreover, these assassins knew how to disguise themselves. They disguised themselves as citizens of the Rainbow Race's domain so that the experts of the Rainbow Race couldn't identify them. Of course, many assassins were killed, but most of them ran away. After they ran away, they didn't leave immediately. Instead, they waited for the experts of the Rainbow Race to rescue the other domains before returning to assassinate them. There were dozens of domains, and each domain had tens of thousands of cities. The rainbow race only had over 200 elders. Even if they were scattered, they couldn't supervise all the cities. What was the most powerful thing about an assassin? It was survival and assassination. They had to avoid the experts and find the weak to attack. Although the rainbow race had many armies and experts, they couldn't take care of all the domains. The dozens of assassin organizations were determined. This time, they wanted to kill the rainbow race until they were terrified. Then, they could extort a large amount of celestial stones to make up for their losses. The rainbow race went crazy. Their elders split into 5 to 6 teams to put out the fires. However, once their experts left, the assassins immediately retreated. After the experts left, the assassins came again. Then, they split their elders into dozens of teams. However, they were too weak this time. A few of their elders were assassinated and more than 10 saint emperors were killed. These assassin organizations all had saint kings, and their battle prowess was even more terrifying. Once they took action, mountains would collapse and the earth would crack. Assassinating a saint king was extremely easy. Most importantly, their saint emperor assassin would immediately flee after the assassination and would not linger in battle. As a result, even if the 3 experts of the rainbow race who were infinitely close to great perfection realm wanted to chase after him, they would not know where to go. A stretch of scorched earth. Countless cities were destroyed, and countless civilians were killed. Distress signals were sent out everywhere. The 3 experts of the rainbow race were badly battered. They actually knew the headquarters of some assassin organizations. They could kill their way there and destroy their headquarters. But they didn't have the time. It would probably take half a year for them to go back and forth. Moreover, more than a dozen assassin organizations were moving out together this time. So what if they destroyed 1 or 2 assassin organizations' headquarters? By the time they returned, most of the rainbow race had been killed. What to do? This was the biggest problem facing the 3 experts of the rainbow race. If they were to continue fighting, the rainbow race tribe leader was confident that he could kill all the assassins and uproot all the assassin organizations. However, if he did that, more than half of the people of the rainbow race would die. Only a few dozen saint emperors would be left. The rainbow race would also be severely injured and would not be able to recover for 10,000 years. Of course, they could also choose another method. They could ask the Hu race to send formidable martial artists over to help them suppress the assassins. However, the Hu race's domain was a little far from here. When the Hu race's formidable martial artists arrived, the rainbow race would also suffer huge losses. Furthermore, they had asked the Hu race for help during this period of time. If they kept looking for the Hu race would think that the rainbow race was useless. They would not be able to help them and would instead have to trouble them for everything. Since they couldn't fight, they could only negotiate. The rainbow race shouted for the assassin organizations to stop fighting and that they could negotiate. The assassin organizations immediately stopped fighting. They didn't really want to fight. They were fighting to extort money and recoup their losses. If they continued fighting, they would suffer even more losses. If they really angered the rainbow race, both sides would suffer great losses. More than a dozen assassin organizations sent 3 representatives to Immortal Dragon City. These 3 representatives were all Thear cranked. Those saint emperors were afraid that they would be killed if they angered the rainbow race. After the 3 Thear cranked warriors entered the Immortal Dragon City, the leader of the rainbow race didn't show up. Neither did the chief patriarch or the second patriarch. Only the 3rd patriarch was sent to negotiate. The assassin organizations demanded an exorbitant price. They demanded that each assassin organization pay 10 trillion celestial stones and the matter would be over. Otherwise, the assassin organizations would destroy the rainbow race at all costs. More than a dozen assassin organizations would have to pay more than 10 billion celestial stones. Not even the rainbow race could afford that amount unless they sold off all their treasures and materials. That would be enough. The rainbow race, of course, was not happy. There was no way to negotiate. The rainbow race didn't put on airs like last time. The 3 patriarchs of the rainbow race began to complain. They said that the rainbow race had spent a lot to help the rainbow demons. Later on, because of Lu Li's great loss, the rainbow race couldn't afford so many celestial stones. They could only offer 20 trillion celestial stones to compensate the assassin organizations. The difference was too great. The assassin organizations couldn't accept it. The negotiation failed. The three Thear-cranked warriors left without hesitation. There was no need to negotiate anymore. They had to continue fighting. More than a dozen assassin organizations took action again. They began to kill and destroy. Countless requests for help came like snowflakes. The leader of the rainbow race had no choice but to send another message to the assassin organizations, informing them that the rainbow race was willing to pay 50 trillion celestial stones. If the assassin organizations were not satisfied, they would have to ask the Hu race for help. They swore that they would not rest until the assassin organizations were destroyed. This time, the rainbow race was determined. Clearly, this was their bottom line. The assassin organizations discussed and agreed. But the rainbow race had to gather enough celestial stones within 3 months. If they didn't have enough celestial stones, then they would use other materials, elixirs, and artifacts as replacements. If the rainbow race didn't hand over the celestial stones in 3 months, then the assassin organizations would attack like crazy. There would be no negotiation. The rainbow race had no other choice but to sell everything they had to gather celestial stones. 50 trillion celestial stones was an astronomical figure. Celestial stones alone would not be enough. They had to sell everything they had and use other materials. Fortunately, the rainbow race had been a wealthy race for many years and had accumulated countless materials. Even if they didn't use celestial stones, they could just take out some of the materials in their treasury, and they would have 50 trillion celestial stones. In less than 3 months, the rainbow race had gathered 50 trillion celestial stones in just over a month. All the assassin organizations retreated after they handed over the money. After the assassin organizations retreated, the leader of the rainbow race led a group of patriarchs to inspect the dozens of universes. The 3 powerful warriors of the rainbow race wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This time, the rainbow race was completely defeated. Not only did they suffer a great loss, but their reputation was tarnished. This was a catastrophe for the rainbow race. The rainbow race probably wouldn't be able to recover for at least 1,000 years. Third Sect Master. Chapter 3269. The fact that the rainbow race hired assassins became a laughingstock in the chaotic star region. On top of that, Lu Li slaughtered the rainbow race all by himself. The reputation of the rainbow race had been tarnished. On the other hand, the god of death had gained face because of these 2 incidents. The god of death was already famous, and now he was even more prominent. The god of death didn't even send out the 9 leaders. It was just the god of death, and yet the god of death had subdued the rainbow race. If the god of death sent out a powerful warrior, could the rainbow race be wiped out directly? Lu Li's name was like the sun at high noon. It was a pity that the rainbow race claimed that Lu Li was dead and immortal hermit of the South Pole had endorsed him. It had been a long time since Lu Li showed up to refute the rumor. Lu Ling and Lu Renhuang, on the other hand, were not worried. Lu Li's jade talisman of life was still intact, so he was not dead. Yu Yang and Mo Qianqian said as well that Lu Li was not dead. He just snuck into a dangerous place to avoid being hunted down. All the powerful warriors of the Lu family, including Lu Ling, went to cultivate. They didn't have to worry about the Lu family's people that had snuck into other universes. The god of death was taking good care of them. They didn't have to worry about their safety. Their battle prowess was also very low, and they were all given many divine medicines, enough for them to cultivate for a very long time. There was nothing they could do now. They could not help Lu Li. The only way to help Lu Li was to work hard to improve their abilities. Mo Qianqian and Yu Yang sent some scouts to sneak into the universe of destruction to observe. If Lu Li came out, they would know at once. There were some powerful warriors of the rainbow race there, but they could not find the scouts of the god of death. Mo Qianqian, Yu Yang, and Yin Emperor could do nothing except wait for Lu Li to come out. If Luli could not come out, then nobody could save him. Luli was still studying soul skills. There was nothing he could do. He would lose his mind if he did not study the skills. He had to calm himself down in cultivation so that he could figure out a way. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Blood Emperor and Astro Emperor were still playing chess outside. They did not move. Astro Emperor was holding a chess piece in midair like a statue. Blood Emperor was squinting. He had a cup of tea in his hand, but he did not drink it. He was like a statue. Luli had calmed down after 3 years. He was already used to being in a soul state. He pondered for a long time, but still couldn't think of any way. Over the past 3 years, he had refined a lot of destructive energy. He had already refined several thousand drops of Super Destruction God Elixir. This divine elixir of destruction was black and exuded a terrifying aura. One look was enough to tell that it was an extremely terrifying thing. The force of destruction outside could easily kill an average Saint King. Luli had a feeling that not even a warrior who was infinitely close to the absolute completion of the divine liquid of destruction could stand it. Of course, these were all Luli's speculations, and there was no way to verify them. So what if he could kill a powerhouse that was infinitely close to the great perfection realm? He couldn't get out at all, nor could he condense a physical body. So what was the point of the divine liquid of destruction being so powerful? Over the past 3 years, due to the crazy absorption of heaven and earth spiritual chi, the Dharma realm's origin energy had multiplied several times, and the Dharma realm had also grown a lot larger. It was a pity that Luli did not care about that. No matter how much origin energy he had, it wouldn't matter how big the Dharma realm was. During the 3 years, Luli clearly felt his soul was weakening. He did some calculations. If he didn't find a way, in 20 years at most, his 3 primary souls would vanish. By then, he would truly be a lonely soul. Luli had to keep on cultivating and figure out a way. Soon, 5 years had passed. It had been 9 years since Luli became a soul. The Dharma realm was still absorbing the energy of destruction. There were hundreds of thousands of drops of divine liquid of destruction in the Dharma realm. If he were to sell them, he couldn't even tell how many celestial stones he could get. The divine liquid of destruction might be as powerful as the red-purple divine liquid. 1 drop could be sold for 1 billion celestial stones. How much would the hundreds of thousands of drops of divine liquid of destruction be worth? Also, the Dharma realm was producing more and more divine liquid of destruction. Could it be that the destructive power outside is endless? Luli suddenly thought of something. He had been absorbing the energy of destruction for 9 years. Was the energy of destruction out there endless? If all the energy of destruction was absorbed, would his soul be able to go out? Would he have a chance to find a top-level relic to condense a physical body? On this thought, Luli generated a strand of soul power and sent it out of the Dharma realm to check. His soul power was like a pair of eyes that could sense the world around him. Okay, as soon as he sent out his soul power, his soul trembled. He clearly felt the energy of destruction was thinner. No, not much. 6 or 7 out of 10 were gone. There used to be countless energy of destruction flying around. Now, there was energy of destruction as well. But every few breaths, only a few strands of energy of destruction would come. The energy of destruction nearby was almost gone. The ones that came were coming from the distance. Though there was still an endless amount of energy of destruction in the distance, Luli might be able to absorb all the energy of destruction here over a long period of time. Whoosh, Luli's soul power wandered around. It was not fast. After a while, it was torn apart by a strand of energy of destruction. There is hope. Luli's soul trembled again. He felt he could see the light. Even if he could absorb all the energy of destruction, he might not be able to find the top-level materials to condense a physical body. But at least there was hope. Cultivation. I want to cultivate soul power. Luli was excited. He had made up his mind that he would continue to cultivate his soul power during this period of time. He had to think of a way to make his soul remembrance more agile, faster, and wider the range of his soul remembrance. Inside the Eye of Destruction was a strange world. There were insects in this world. There were many insects on the skeletons. It meant that some materials could be born here as well. The Shen-Chi in heaven and earth was rich here. It was possible that top-level materials could be born here. Hope. Luli felt he had come back to life. There was no longer any confusion or fear in his heart. All he felt was excitement. He was like a dying man who saw the last straw to save his life. Buzzing, Luli once again released a strand of his soul psyche to have a closer look. He believed that in 10 years, the energy of destruction here would be extremely thin. By then, he would be able to control his soul power and even the soul-devouring bead to search around. For now, he could not act rashly. The soul-devouring bead would explode after another 2 attacks. Without the soul-devouring bead, his soul would be torn apart by the energy of destruction. There is a glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. I hope the heavens will stop messing with me, or I will be doomed eternally. Luli thought to himself. Then, he went to closed-door cultivation. He stopped thinking and focused on studying soul power. Third Master. Chapter 3270. After the assassination attempt by the Assassin Organization and the extortion of 5 billion celestial stones, the Rainbow Race stopped making trouble for the Lu family. With the protection of the God of Death, the Rainbow Race couldn't do anything even if they wanted to. That would only increase the casualties and push the Rainbow Race into the abyss. The family leader of the Rainbow Race ordered a general retreat. Many universes that did not have many resources were given up. The Rainbow Race only managed the universes that were important. At the same time, the Rainbow Race was sealed off. From that day on, the Rainbow Race would not be in contact with the outside world. Outsiders could not enter their universes. The Rainbow Race had to keep a low profile for a while to recover the overall strength of the race, recuperate and train their powerful warriors. The warriors of the Lu family and the other families were relieved. Because of Luli, they were respected and taken care of by the God of Death. The Rainbow Race lived a comfortable life in other universes. Many of them even arranged marriages with disciples of the major families. It was said that Luli had passed away. The fact that they were still taking care of Li's family meant that they were not after anything else, just out of respect. The major families worked hard as well. They all knew that Luli had helped them a lot. He had brought them to such a grand stage, given them so many resources, and given them such a high starting point. If they didn't work hard themselves, they would only bring shame to Li and shame him. Admittedly, the God of Death was a great stage. Here, they could grow and improve quickly. What was more, with the resources provided by Li, most of the warriors were improving every day at a fast pace. Even though the disciples of the major families had dispersed, they did not forget who they were. Some of the major families even forgot about their families and regarded themselves as disciples of the Lu family. They had become disciples of the Lu family. They knew that only by working together could they survive in the chaotic universe. When Lu Ling was informed, she discussed with the family patriarchs of the major families and established a new organization called the Lu Alliance. The families under the Lu Alliance still existed. In this way, everyone would have a new title and be more cohesive. The disciples of the major families were overjoyed when the Lu Alliance was established. In this way, they had a common title, Disciples of the Lu Alliance. Originally, the God of Death was not allowed to form small gangs or groups. That being said, the leaders of the God of Death said nothing about the Lu Alliance. Luli had made a great contribution to the Grim Reaper. The Lu family was too weak. It would take years for the Lu family to grow. Moreover, the Lu Alliance's disciples had to rely on the Grim Reaper to survive. It was estimated that after hundreds or thousands of years, the Lu Alliance would completely fuse with the Grim Reaper. Qi Wang Shan, the sixth patriarch, and the others all chose to join the Grim Reaper and became Grim Reapers. Of course, their combat power was not enough. Therefore, they could not even reach the level of a gold-rank death god, let alone an ace death god. They could only be silver death gods. All of them felt as if they had obtained a second spring. They began to cultivate crazily, frantically increasing their battle prowess and striving to become stronger. Originally, they thought their strength would stop there. Coming to the chaotic star fields was like walking out of a dry well. Here, they could obtain higher-grade resources and see a wider world and divine objects. They were also confident that they could become stronger. Everything was going well. The only pity was that there was still no news of Li, even though his jade talisman of life was still there. That being said, many higher-ups of the Lu Alliance were panicking. So many years had passed. If Li could come out, he would have done so a long time ago. Soon, another 10 years had passed. Li had been trapped in the Eye of Destruction for 19 years. Many higher-ups of the Lu Alliance had lost all hope. It had been 19 years, and he could not come out. Maybe he would never come out again. Of course, some of them were excited. It had been 19 years, and Li was still alive. Did it mean that he was just trapped? Did it mean that his life was not in danger? Did it mean that Li could come out? Boom, 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 boom. In a secret realm of the Yu family, Xiang Linglong was attacking a mountain in a frenzy. Under her attacks, the mountain was glaring and the noise was deafening. The mountain was protected by divine patterns, or else it would have been smashed. The mountain was used to test the abilities of warriors. Xiang Linglong had reached the peak of the Sixth Tribulation and was one step away from reaching the Emperor Realm. Linglong and Yin Qingxi were talented. They had been provided with top-level resources over the years, and they had been diligent in cultivation. It was not easy for them to reach their current realm. Xiang Linglong was a Seventh Tribulation physique as well. But her cultivation was not as impressive as Li's. Maybe it was because Li had been through more hardships than Xiang Linglong. Every time a Seventh Tribulation physique went through a disaster, their abilities would soar. That was why Li could improve so fast. Darling, you must come out alive. How can we live without you? Without you, what is the point of me reaching the Emperor Realm and then the Saint Emperor Realm? Xiang Linglong murmured. Reaching the Emperor Realm and a Middle King Realm might be something to be proud of. It could bring glory to a family and help the family grow. But in the Chaotic Star region, even reaching the Saint Emperor Realm was not a big deal, let alone the Emperor Realm. On the other hand, Linglong and the other girls were not like those ambitious men. Once they reached the big stage of the Chaotic Star fields, they could continue to improve, develop, and become kings. Russell, a slim figure walked over. Yin Qingxi said with a smile, "Congratulations, sister. You are one step closer to the Emperor Realm. I don't think most Saint Emperor Realm warriors are a match for your Frost fundamental principle." "Sister, don't make fun of me." Xiang Linglong stroked her hair in embarrassment. "Sister, you have been at this realm for a long time. You will reach the Emperor Realm soon, right?" "Yes." Yin Qingxi nodded. "If nothing goes wrong, I think it will be this year. Congratulations in advance, sister." Xiang Linglong was delighted. Now that Yin Qingxi had reached the Emperor Realm, at least the Lu Alliance would have a great Emperor Realm warrior. Suddenly, Xiang Linglong remembered something and asked, "Sister Ling, I think it will be soon?" "Yes, in 1 or 2 years." Yin Qingxi nodded. Sister Ling is very talented. She has been delayed by trifles over the years. Otherwise, she would have reached the Emperor Realm a long time ago. "Sister Ling, you are excellent." Xiang Linglong frowned and sighed. Many young masters of the God of Death have been won over by her. I heard that some young masters proposed to our father through young Master Yu and Lady Qian, but they were all turned down by her. Sister Ling is not young anymore. Yin Qingxi exclaimed, "Some young masters of the God of Death are good. One of them is a descendant of a powerful warrior. One of young Master Yu's cousins is pursuing Sister Ling like crazy. I don't think Sister Ling will marry out." Xiang Linglong suddenly sent a mysterious voice transmission to Yin Qingxi. "Qingxi, do you think Sister Ling will fall in love with her younger brother? Does she want to marry her husband?" "Don't talk nonsense," Yin Qingxi replied. "If Sister Ling hears this, it will be embarrassing. What if it's not true? What's more, we don't even know what is going on with her husband." Sigh. Chapter 3271. Li's situation was complicated. He had been cultivating soul skills for 10 years, and he had made great progress. His soul could now fly to 30,000 miles away. His soul was fast, and he could dodge the energy of destruction. The energy of destruction was reduced as well. Every dozens of breaths, there would only be one strand of energy. Luli could use his soul to explore the nearby area. It was a pity. Apart from bones and bugs, there was nothing in an area with a radius of 30,000 miles. Luli didn't find any materials, not even elixirs, not to mention top-level ones. Luli was troubled. How could he rebuild his body without top-level materials? His interspatial rings and interspatial artifacts were all destroyed. Otherwise, he could have searched for suitable materials. What to do? Luli felt he had seen a ray of hope, only to realize that it was false. He was frustrated. He had to find another way. A day or two later, a bold idea came to him. He had to figure out a way to control the pellet to fly. His soul could only cover an area with a radius of 30,000 miles, which was his limit. Therefore, if he wanted to go on, he would have to fly the soul-devouring bead. There was no energy of destruction nearby, but once he was far away, there might be more energy of destruction. If the soul-devouring bead were to fly away, once it was attacked by the energy of destruction, Luli's soul would be shattered. How could he control the pellet to fly? The pellet was his, but he didn't have a physical body anymore. He could not control the pellet to fly. I got it. Luli had an idea. He flew the soul-devouring bead out and made it tangible. Then he smashed it at the pellet. Whoosh! Luli was overjoyed. The pellet was smashed away by the soul-devouring bead. The realm inside the pellet was boundless, but the pellet was small. As long as the pellet moved, the entire realm would move. Actually, this was not right. The realm should be in the Sumeru space, and the pellet was just the entrance. Luli flew the soul-devouring bead over and smashed at the pellet. The pellet was pushed away. The soul-devouring bead could be activated with soul energy. Luli had plenty of soul energy left. After all, his soul was as strong as that of a Saint King at the middle stage. Phew, phew, from the distance came a surge of destructive energy. Luli sent the soul-devouring bead into the Dharma realm at once. The destructive energy was absorbed easily. When the energy of destruction was absorbed, Luli took out the soul-devouring bead and used it to propel the pellet forward. The speed was not fast, but the pellet was moving forward. There was not much energy of destruction nearby. Soon, Luli used the soul-devouring bead to push the pellet forward for more than 30,000 miles. The energy of destruction here was stronger, but thinner. Continue forward. Luli pushed the pellet forward. After another tens of thousands of miles, he stopped the pellet. Then, he used his psychic power to check for treasures. His soul remembrance scouted nearby. However, before he could completely scan the area, Annihilation was torn apart by a strand of annihilation power. Luli released another strand of his soul power. This time, he made it clear, there was nothing in an area with a radius of 30,000 miles. Apart from some skeletons, there were some insects. Luli had no other choice but to push the pellet forward and begin his journey of searching for treasures. The world inside the Eye of Destruction was probably very big. He just didn't know if there were any heavenly treasures. Half a month, 1 month, 3 months. Luli had searched for millions of miles, but to no avail. In the depth of the space, there were no skeletons or insects. Apart from the energy of destruction, there was nothing. Much of the energy of destruction in the world had been absorbed. Luli had flown for millions of miles. The energy of destruction here was thin as well. It did not have a great impact on his soul power. Luli was troubled. He had searched for such a long distance without finding anything. Did that mean that there were no treasures in here? That being said, apart from searching, there was nothing else for Luli to do. He pushed the pellet forward. Whether he could find anything was up to his luck. 3 months, 5 months, 1 year, Luli didn't even know how far he had searched. The world inside the Eye of Destruction was vast and boundless. Luli had been flying forward without turning at all. He didn't see anything familiar. He didn't feel like he was in a formation of illusion. Once again, Luli was confused and exhausted. He was showing signs of mental breakdown. He really couldn't take it anymore. After so many years, his soul had been weakened. Now, such a boring search and being disappointed again and again could really cause one to have a mental breakdown. Luli had a strong mind. If he were another warrior of the same realm, he would have lost his soul. Let's stop and take a rest. Luli had an idea in his soul. He wanted to sleep and have good rest. However, he knew that he couldn't fall asleep. The more he was in such a situation, the more he shouldn't fall asleep. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would never wake up again. He had been a soul for 20 years. His 3 primary souls were weak and on the verge of dissipating. How could he sleep at such a critical moment? It was possible that his primary souls would vanish if he slept. Since he could not sleep, then he had to use the pellet to continue the search. Luli was not going to believe this. He flew the pellet forward. He did not believe that the world inside the Eye of Destruction was endless. 3 months, 5 months, 9 months. Luli's soul was getting weaker and weaker. He had a feeling that in 2 or 3 years, his 3 primary souls would vanish completely. By then, he would be left with only the 7 physical souls. By then, not even an almighty God would be able to save him. A human soul was divided into 3 souls and 7 physical souls. The 3 souls were the primary souls, the support of the soul. Without the 3 souls, the soul would vanish. As for the 7 physical souls, they were the branches and leaves of the soul. Even if the primary souls were to vanish, they wouldn't vanish anytime soon. As long as there was soul energy, the 7 physical souls could survive for many years. Luli's soul was exhausted. He hadn't slept for a long time. The more he slept, the more he dared not to. He was afraid that once he slept, he would never wake up again. Similarly, Luli didn't find anything during the 9 months. It was like he was in an endless void. There was nothing, not even a worm. Keep going, keep fighting, 3 months, 5 months. When Luli's soul was exhausted and he was about to fall asleep, he suddenly sensed something. He seemed to have sensed some fluctuation of spiritual chi nearby, and it was quite strong. It seemed that the spiritual chi nearby was surging toward one direction. What is going on? Luli's soul trembled. His tiredness was gone. He pushed the pellet toward the direction of the fluctuation at once. After 6 hours, he finally found where the spiritual chi was converging. He used his psychic power to check, and his soul trembled. If he had a physical body, he would be in tears of joy. He had found a piece of material, and it was a top one, a peerless one. Chapter 32:72. In front of him, a huge swirl appeared. The swirl was made up of the energy of destruction. Spiritual energy from all directions was surging into the swirl. In the center of the swirl, there was a tangible liquid. The liquid seemed to be made up of the energy of destruction and spiritual energy in heaven and earth. In the center of the liquid was a human figure. Yes, it was a human figure. Luli could see it clearly with his psyche. But it was not a human, more like a fruit with human nature. The fruit was neither small nor large. It was about the size of a child. It had no facial features. Apart from the shape, it was nothing like a human. The fruit was dark gold in color. It looked like a child sitting in midair with his legs crossed. Is this the mortal fruit? Luli was not sure. He had never seen the mortal fruit before, nor had he seen a picture of it in books. He had only read some descriptions. No. After a while, Luli denied it. The mortal fruit seemed to be colorful, and it smelled strange. The fruit had no smell. Of course, Luli couldn't smell it now. Whether it was the mortal fruit or not, this was Luli's only chance. He must seize it. If the treasures could not rebuild his body, then Luli would die for sure. So much energy of destruction. Luli used his psyche to check again. The energy of destruction had reached a horrifying intensity, but it was not a problem for him. He could absorb all the energy. He controlled the soul-devouring bead to push the pellet over slowly. There was so much energy of destruction. One careless move, and the soul-devouring bead could be destroyed. At the edge of the swirl, Luli controlled the soul-devouring bead to enter the Dharma realm. The pellet was sucked into the swirl. Luli controlled the Dharma realm to absorb the energy of destruction. The swirl in the Dharma realm spun rapidly. The energy of destruction from all directions was sucked in. There was a lot of energy of destruction here. However, with the speed of the Dharma realm, Luli believed it would take less than 3 months for all the energy of destruction here to be absorbed. The main reason was that the energy of destruction here was so dense that it was easy to absorb. Luli was exhausted. Now he was excited. He wished he could absorb all the energy of destruction. He began to feel uneasy because he only had one chance. If this heaven and earth treasure could not condense a physical body, then he would be completely hopeless. Time flew by, but to Luli it was slow. Soon, 3 months had passed. Almost all of the destructive energy outside had been absorbed, leaving only a few hundred strands. Luli pushed the pellet to absorb the energy. When all the energy of destruction was absorbed, Luli released his psychic power to check the treasure carefully. After an hour of careful observation, Luli was sure that there was no energy of destruction around the treasure. The liquid around the fruit should not be harmful to souls. He controlled the strand of soul remembrance to enter the liquid. Indeed, his soul remembrance wasn't harmed. However, the heaven and earth treasure seemed to be alarmed. It trembled. If it were not for the fact that Luli's soul power had no attacking power, the heaven and earth treasure would have flown away. Godly medicines had their own spirits. Although they did not have high intelligence, if they sensed danger, they would definitely escape immediately. Luli flew the soul-devouring bead over and slowly entered the liquid. Luli didn't use any soul energy, nor did he show any killing intent. Of course, since his soul was in the soul-devouring bead, it was hard for him to show any killing intent. Buzzing when Luli was approaching, the fruit seemed to have sensed danger. It trembled violently and was about to fly away. At that moment, Luli controlled the soul-devouring bead to enlarge and then turn intangible. The soul-devouring bead enveloped the fruit. When the fruit was enveloped, the bead became tangible again. The fruit was trapped in the soul-devouring bead. Luli's soul was overjoyed. He controlled the soul-devouring bead to enter the realm of magic at once. When he was in the realm of magic, Luli let the fruit out. He was relieved. Now that the fruit was here, it would never be able to get away. Now that he had the heaven and earth treasure, it was time to condense a physical body. As a matter of fact, Luli's physical body was destroyed once when he was going through the heaven tribulation. But back then, he used thunderbolts and the mark in his soul to reconstruct his physical body. Thunderbolts had the power of destruction and rebirth. But there was no thunderbolt here. Even though there was a top-level heaven and earth treasure, Luli didn't know how to condense it. His soul was still intact and had all the marks of his physical body. If it were a new one, it would be easy, but relying on the heaven and earth treasure would be troublesome. Let me have a look. Luli gathered a strand of his soul and sent it into the realm of magic. The realm of magic was startled and it danced around in the realm of magic. However, the realm of magic was a sealed world. Where could the fruit go? Luli controlled the soul-devouring bead to catch up with it. He used his soul to check the fruit carefully. An hour later, Luli knew what to do. The fruit was extraordinary. It was powerful and contained powerful energy. The fruit must have absorbed a great deal of energy of destruction and Xian energy in heaven and earth. That was the essence of heaven and earth, the soul of all beings. The fruit must have other miraculous abilities. It was just that Luli could not find out now. Luli retracted his soul and began to think. He recalled the books he had read over the years and tried to figure out a way to condense a physical body. A month later, Luli was confident. He had figured out the way and the steps to condense a physical body. The physical body was the root, the soul was the source, and energy was the source. A warrior's physical body was the root. To condense a physical body, 3 steps were needed. The first step was to fix the soul. To put the soul into the fruit, let the soul control the fruit and integrate with it. If the integration could not be completed, then the soul would have no root and no place to rest. Naturally, the soul would lose control of the physical body. The soul would dissipate and eventually die. Fixing the soul was important. Without fixing the soul, everything else would be meaningless. Once the soul and the fruit were integrated, the second step would begin, reshaping the physical body. Using the mark in the soul, Luli could transform the fruit into the physical body in his memory. The human body was a miraculous existence. Nothing could go wrong, not even a bone or a blood vessel. Otherwise, the physical body would not be complete. Not only would it affect the warrior's cultivation and abilities, but the physical body might not be able to exist for a long time. After the second step was completed, there was only the last step left, purification. After all, the physical body was not his own, and it was not reshaped with thunderbolts. The physical body would be different from before. There would be all kinds of discomfort, disharmony, and imperfections. Therefore, the physical body must be cleansed and transformed again, just like how a worm would turn from a cocoon into a butterfly and be reborn. The mark, impurities, and all other external things would be removed, and a perfect physical body would be formed. We'll start in 6 hours. If we don't succeed, we'll die. Luli was not in a hurry. Instead, he emptied his soul. The reshaping of the physical body must be completed at one go. Therefore, his soul needed some rest. Of course, he could not fall asleep. He forced himself not to think about anything, relax, and rest. 6 hours later, success or failure depended on this. Chapter 3273. 6 hours later, Luli began to rebuild his body. First, he had to fix his soul. He flew the soul-devouring bead over and said, "Blood Fairy, activate the divine pattern." Luli had cut off the spiritual connection with the Tempest of Thunder, but not Blood Fairy. She was in the realm of magic. Before Luli's soul was destroyed, he did not cut off the spiritual connection. Treasures with spirits could fly. Luli's soul had to enter the fruit and merge with it. Therefore, he could not move the fruit, which required a divine pattern. It was easy to set up such a divine pattern. Blood Fairy did it easily. A red glare came out. Following that, a mysterious force field appeared. The fruit could not move. It was suppressed. Luli flew the soul-devouring bead over. The fruit sensed danger and began to tremble. However, because of the divine pattern, the fruit could not fly away. It could only tremble. Buzzing, the soul-devouring bead shrank, extremely small. It became intangible and flew into the fruit. This soul-devouring bead was a top-level holy weapon. It was of great help to Luli. Luli sent the soul-devouring bead into the head of the fruit. The fruit was trembling more and more violently. The fruit sensed a fatal danger. It was right. Luli was about to wipe away the bit of intelligence it had. If he wanted to completely fuse with the god fruit, he would have to erase his consciousness. Buzzing, soul energy was released from the soul-devouring bead again and again. Luli's soul was weak. That being said, his soul was as strong as a warrior at the middle stage of the Saint King realm. Luli's soul energy circulated around the fruit. The bit of intelligence it had was wiped away by Luli. The fruit stopped moving. Without intelligence, it could not move. Luli did not control his soul because it needed a space to settle. The soul was a very wonderful thing. It cannot be placed in any random place, or else it would dissipate even more. Luli began to mobilize more soul energy. He began to squeeze out a space in the head of the fruit. Space in the soul. It was a slow process because Luli could not destroy the fruit. Therefore, he could only compress it bit by bit, slowly forming and stabilizing this space. This process took Luli 10 days. After 10 days, the ideal space in his soul appeared. After he was sure that everything was fine, he flew in the soul-devouring bead, and his soul came out from the soul-devouring bead and went into the space in his soul. At the moment, there was a lot of soul energy in the space of Luli's soul. An ocean of soul was formed. Luli's soul entered the ocean of soul. The first step of soul fixation was half done. After the soul was settled, it still needed to fuse with the god fruit. If it couldn't be fused, it wouldn't be considered a success, and it wouldn't be able to control the god fruit. The process was even slower. Luli controlled his soul energy to enter every part of the fruit so that the fruit could get used to his soul, accept it, and integrate with it. This process would take Luli at least half a year. This period of time was crucial. If he could succeed, he would have to pay for it. At least, he wouldn't die in a short time. After his soul was settled, it wouldn't dissipate anymore, and his three main souls would be stabilized. Luli's method was working. Now, it was up to the god fruit. If the god fruit was not suitable for building a body, it would resist the integration. Once that happened, Luli would be at his wit's end. 1 month, 3 months, 5 months. Luli's soul suddenly trembled. Once again, he had the urge to burst into tears of joy. Today, Luli felt he had integrated with the god fruit. His flesh and blood were connected. He and the god fruit were inseparable. It was as if he had taken control of a peerless weapon and the god fruit had become a part of him. Sleep. Luli didn't care about anything else. His soul was no longer afraid of dissipating. The powerful energy in the god fruit was nourishing his soul. He didn't have to worry that he would never wake up again. It had been a long time since he let his soul rest. Now that the soul fixation was successful, his soul that had been tense for so long couldn't stand it anymore. He fell into a deep sleep. Luli slept for more than 10 days. When he woke up, he felt refreshed. First, he checked and found that his soul had recovered a lot. He was more integrated with the god fruit. More importantly, there was a small change in the space of his soul. At first, it was round, but now it was oval. This was the result of his evolution. Making sure that everything was fine, Luli moved on to the second step, reshaping the body. The fruit seemed to be in the shape of a human. As a matter of fact, it had nothing to do with a human. It didn't have any human organs, bones, or blood vessels. Reshaping the body was an arduous process. If the reshaping was unsuccessful, then the body would be of no use other than to protect his soul. How should I reshape the body? Although Luli had thought through some of it, he hadn't thought through the details yet. This time, he spent 15 or 16 days thinking about it, making deductions and verifying them. Let's go. Luli had completely integrated with the god fruit. Therefore, he could mobilize the energy in the god fruit. He began to reshape the body. The god fruit began to change, growing larger and larger. According to Luli's spiritual imprint, the god fruit was restoring his original body bit by bit. Hands, legs, facial features, hair, D*CK. Everything was the same as before. Luli didn't even make his D*CK thicker. Of course, Luli could turn himself into any race he wanted, such as the Gooies or the wild race. But what would be the point? Would he be a Gooies just because he looked like the Gooies? Would he have the strong body and skills of the Gooies? Luli was proficient in skill of transfiguration. He could become any race he wanted. Therefore, he didn't have to change his appearance. He was satisfied with his own. The appearance was easy to reshape. In just over a day, a brand new Luli appeared in the magic realm. Of course, this Luli was still a walking dead, or a vegetable. He looked fine on the outside, but there was nothing inside. Reshape the bones. Luli began the second step of reshaping the body, the most difficult one, reshaping the bones. The human body was like a tree, and the bones were the backbone. The bones were the support of the human body. If the bones were not reshaped well, the body would be useless. How can I reshape the bones? The god fruit contained flesh and powerful energy. Luli could use the energy to transform the flesh into bones. But if the flesh was the same in strength and hardness, then wouldn't the bones be the same as the flesh and organs? This was not the normal structure of a human body. Therefore, Luli had to rely on external forces or energy. Origin energy. Luli thought of an idea. He had an endless supply of origin energy in the magic realm. He could mobilize a large amount of origin energy to reshape the bones. The strength and hardness of the reshaped bones must be horrifying. The god fruit had absorbed a great deal of energy of destruction and Xian Qi in heaven and earth. Luli could tell that the god fruit was strong. How strong would the reshaped body be? Luli was looking forward to it. Third Master. Chapter 3274. Buzzing, Luli controlled the body to move towards the source of energy and then let the body directly into the source of energy. He began to build the bones. The bones were the most important. If the bones were not built first, then nothing else would make sense. There were 206 bones in a human being. Luli first built the spine, which was called the keel in the folk. It was the most important bone for a human being. Luli kept on absorbing the source of energy and then mobilized the energy in the body to squeeze the flesh of the fruit so that a spine would appear in the body. He had a complete spiritual imprint, so he knew everything inside the bones like the back of his hand. It was not too difficult to build it, but it would take some time. It was like carving a piece of art. Nothing could go wrong. The flesh of the fruit was being compressed and refined. The source of energy was being mobilized to integrate with the flesh of the fruit. The powerful energy in the body helped the spine to take shape. After more than a day, the most important spine was built. Luli did not stop. He kept on absorbing the source of energy and pouring it into the spine. He wanted to integrate more source of energy into the spine and make it stronger. 3 days, 5 days, 8 days. Finally, the spine stopped absorbing the source of energy. Luli began to build the other bones. The spine was the most important, just like the beam of a house. Once it was built, the rest would be easier. Luli began to build the other bones. He started with the skull, then the ribs, and then the hand and foot bones. He had so much source energy here that he was not stingy at all. He let every bone absorb until they could no longer. For months, Luli had finished building the 206 bones. He had lost 1/5 of his source energy, but Luli did not care. He even wanted to absorb all of the source energy. After all, this was source energy. The more he absorbed, the stronger his physical body would be. For months later, all the bones were built. The rest was easy. The prototype of the house was built. All that was left was to decorate and fill in. Luli had a complete spiritual imprint, so it was easy to build. After spending another 5 months, his physical body was completely formed. His internal organs, blood vessels, meridians, hands and feet, facial features, penis, balls, and so on were all formed. It was exactly the same as what Luli saw in his spiritual mark. If a warrior used psychic power to check, Luli would be a complete person, no different from before. The second step, body remodeling, success. From the outside, Luli looked like a complete human being. There was blood flowing in his body, his heart was beating, and his breathing was steady. He looked no different from a normal human being. That being said, if a human were to come close, they would be able to tell that Luli was not a human being, not even a living being. Luli did not have the presence of a human being or a living being. It was like a puppet. Though it looked no different from a human being, it was not alive. That was to say, Luli's body was still dead. He had not come back to life in a real sense. How can I survive? Luli was a bit worried. He knew very well that the human body was a natural formation. The formation was running all the time, absorbing spiritual qi from heaven and earth, generating energy needed by the human body and discharging impurities. Even mortals were absorbing spiritual qi from heaven and earth. The food they ate, the water they drank, and the air they breathed were all nurtured by heaven and earth. They were all transformed from spiritual qi from heaven and earth. It wasn't just humans. Even animals, plants, strange races, and all other living beings had complete natural formations in their bodies. Without a formation, one could not absorb spiritual qi from heaven and earth. Then one would be a dead thing, not a living thing. As a matter of fact, Luli's body could absorb energy from heaven and earth. That being said, Luli felt he was not alive yet. It was highly possible that his body was modified and not remolded. The natural formation in his body was not activated. Never mind. Let's purify first. Luli decided to go for the third step. He would first cleanse the body, remove the impurities, and make it perfect. Maybe by then, his body could come back to life. Purification required external energy as well. The energy inside the body could not be purified. Luli began to absorb the source energy first. He used it to cleanse his body over and over again, forcing out the impurities in his body bit by bit. However, after several tries, Luli realized that it was useless. Many parts of his body were built with source energy. Therefore, cleansing with source energy would only result in the integration of the source energy. The impurities could not be removed. Similarly, the energy inside the body would not work either because it was of the same origin. Luli had to look at the other energies in the realm of magic. In the realm of magic, there was the purple divine liquid, the liquid of poison, and the liquid of destruction. Needless to say, the liquid of poison would only corrode and destroy his body. There was not much purple divine liquid left. What was more, the liquid of destruction could not be cleansed. Then, there was only the super liquid of destruction left. Using the liquid of destruction to cleanse my body? I am losing my mind. Luli put on a bitter smile. The super liquid of destruction must be horrifying. It could even destroy the body of a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate level. Was he going to use it to cleanse his body? Was he sure that after using 1 or 2 drops, his body would be destroyed? Right now, he had no way of getting a second heavenly item. If his physical body was destroyed, then he would be completely finished. The thing was, he had nowhere else to go. His body was not a living thing, and it could easily go wrong. He could not walk out of the eye of destruction with this body. No, this fruit is nurtured by the energy of destruction. Maybe it is not afraid of the liquid of destruction. Luli thought of this. The fruit had absorbed a large amount of energy of destruction. It was possible that it had developed a resistance to the energy of destruction. Let's see. A glint of madness rose in Luli's eyes. He walked over and approached the liquid of destruction. Then he sat down with his legs crossed. Making sure that everything was fine, he flew a drop of liquid of destruction toward him. Whoosh! He reached out one hand toward the liquid of destruction, and the other hand was ready to move at any time. If something went wrong, he would cut off this hand without hesitation. Luli reached out slowly, and soon, the divine liquid of destruction was in his hand. What happened next surprised Luli. The divine liquid of destruction glowed and then disappeared into his body. It's okay. Luli was overjoyed. He controlled that drop of liquid of destruction to move around his body at once. A moment later, he was even more overjoyed. The liquid of destruction was powerful. It could cleanse his body, transform his body, and expel impurities. Liquid of destruction, here I come. He grabbed at the void and sent dozens of drops of liquid of destruction into his body. The liquid of destruction circulated quickly in his body, washing away the impurities and then being absorbed by his body. My body is growing stronger. Luli could clearly feel that his body was growing stronger. Without any hesitation, he kept sending the liquid of destruction into his body. No matter what the result of the cleansing would be, at the very least, his body would grow stronger and more horrifying as he absorbed the liquid of destruction. Third Master. Chapter 3275. It took Luli 3 months to cleanse his body, and he had used up more than 10,000 drops of divine perishing liquid. If he could leave this place, how many celestial stones could he buy with the 10,000 drops of divine perishing liquid? Luli was cleansing his body with celestial stones at high price. 3 months later, Luli's body was perfect without any impurities. There was no smell of fruits. It was as if he had become a pure human being, one with flesh and blood. However, Luli still did not come back to life. His hands and feet were the same as a human's. Even his hair was the same. His skin was warm and elastic. If Luli wanted to, he could pee. That being said, Luli did not feel alive. His body was still a walking dead, a dead thing. There was no smell or smell of a human being. He was like the most miraculous and perfect statue in the world. But it was not a human being, but a living one. Luli was depressed. Not coming back to life meant that he could not cultivate his body, could not control it perfectly, and could not command it like an arm. This body was like a piece of treasure. It was connected to his flesh and blood and had a spiritual connection with him. But it was not his body. Luli had been thinking about it for months, but to no avail. He gave up thinking and fell asleep at once. He slept for 4 to 5 days. When he woke up, he began to test his body. His body began to run at high speed, but this run scared it. His speed was shockingly fast, 20 times faster than his previous physical body. He was only relying on his body. He did not use any source of energy or strange energy in his body. Boom! He stretched out his fist and smashed it in the air. A terrifying force surged out and cracks appeared in the air. The Dharma realm trembled violently. It was as if it would collapse from just one punch from him. "Oh my," Luli exclaimed to himself. This body was so strong that it could be as strong as the purple divine liquid. That was to say, his body was as strong as a middle-stage Saint King, or even stronger. Boom, boom, boom. Luli punched several more times. However, when he punched for the third time, the energy in his body suddenly surged up and ran amok in his body. His expression changed drastically, and he felt like his body was going to explode at any moment. It was as if his body would explode in the next second and turn into ashes. Not good. This fleshly body's grand array isn't complete yet. There are many parts of the body that are not in harmony. If I forcefully attack it, it will cause the energy to become chaotic. This fleshly body is going to be in big trouble. Luli was taken aback. He didn't dare to move. He tried his best to stop the energy in his body. However, that energy was completely out of his control. Instead, the energy absorbed by his physical body was affected, causing even more energy to crazily circulate within his body. Think of a way. Think of a way. Otherwise, my fleshly body will explode, and my soul will be destroyed as well. Luli sensed the most critical moment. He could actually control his soul to enter the soul-devouring bead and let it leave the body immediately. But in that case, all of his previous efforts would be in vain. His physical body would be gone, and his soul wouldn't exist for long either. In the end, he would still die. There's only one way. Luli thought quickly and came up with the only solution, which was to fight fire with fire. He mobilized more energy to suppress the rampaging energy. Although his body might not be able to withstand it and might explode, that was the only way. Whoosh! Luli controlled the source of energy to surge into his body at once. Then, he controlled the source of energy to form a torrent to suppress the rampaging energy in his body. 1,000, 3,000, 5,000. Numerous sources of energy were mobilized. However, the source of energy was affected, and it was rioting along with the original energy. Luli was dumbfounded. But what else could he do at this juncture? He had to continue to mobilize his source of energy. At the same time, he mobilized the energy of destruction. Numerous sources of energy and energy of destruction surged in, forming a torrent that surged toward the rampaging energy. Okay. When Luli had mobilized a third of his source of energy and a quarter of his energy of destruction, the torrent of energy finally surpassed the one in his body. But there was a problem. Inside his body, two streams of energy were chasing each other and trying to suppress each other. They were running around in his body, but his body could not withstand such a huge amount of energy. It was as if Luli's body was a desert with two torrents of water raging in it. If the desert was large enough and hard enough, then it might be able to withstand the two torrents. If the desert was not strong enough, then it might be torn apart by the two torrents. What made Luli happy was that his body was strong, ridiculously so. Otherwise, it would have exploded a long time ago. That being said, Luli still had to figure out a way to stabilize the energy. Otherwise, it would explode sooner or later, and his body would not be able to withstand it. Tai Chi. Luli remembered an image. Tai Chi was two fish, one white and the other black. They were chasing each other and circling around each other. This could form a cycle and stabilize the energy. Luli guided the torrent of energy to circle around inside his body, forcing and suppressing the other torrent of energy to do the same. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the two torrents of energy circled around his body like the Tai Chi diagrams. In this way, at least the energy wouldn't wander around and cause a violent explosion. His body was safe for now. There was another problem. The torrents of energy could not keep circling around. Otherwise, more energy would be drawn out from his body. By then, the two torrents of energy would grow stronger and his body would not be able to withstand it. I must figure out a way to divide the energy. I must divide the energy in my body and store it in a fixed location. Luli was deep in thought. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he thought of the trace of the Great Path again. There might be more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path in his body. If he could seal the energy bit by bit according to the pattern of the trace of the Great Path, then wouldn't he be able to dissolve all the energy? Let's have a try. Luli had always been a man of swift and decisive actions. He mobilized his soul energy and entered the two torrents of energy. When the torrents of energy passed by the bone, Luli used his soul energy to seal some of the energy in the bone. It was possible that the energy would be drawn out when the torrents of energy were circling around. That being said, there was no other way for Luli to go. He had to seal the energy. 1, 2, 100, 500. Luli took actions quickly and sealed the energy in the bone. Unfortunately, some of the energy would be drawn out soon after they were sealed. That being said, Luli was too fast. He mobilized his soul energy to separate strands of energy and seal them. 1,000, 2,000. When Luli had sealed almost 3,000 strands of energy, there was still a lot of torrents of energy in his body. But he sensed that the torrents of energy were not as restless as before. They seemed to be calming down. 6 hours later, Luli had sealed 3,650 torrents of energy. He had sealed more than 3,000 torrents of energy according to the structure of the trace of the Great Path. Right at that moment, all of a sudden, the more than 3,000 strands of energy that were sealed in Luli's body glowed in white. Then a surge of strange power spread out. The torrents of energy in his body stopped moving at once. Also at that moment, he suddenly felt that his body had come back to life. Third Master. Chapter 3276. There was a natural formation in the human body. It was invisible, and it was the core that coordinated the human body. It was like the main control of a machine. If something went wrong in the human body, the formation would adjust automatically. Of course, if something went wrong in a certain part, the human body would fall ill and die. That would mean that the formation was broken, which would lead to the collapse of the formation and the human body would die. Luli did not know how to set up the formation. If he were to rebuild his body, it would be replicated according to the spiritual imprint and the natural formation would come into being. But this time, Luli used treasure materials to modify his body. Naturally, there would be some problems that prevented the formation from coming into being. Naturally, his body cannot come back to life. However, in order to suppress the violent energy in his body, Luli formed more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path. Unexpectedly, his body came back to life. The energy in his body calmed down completely. The traces of the Great Path contained an invisible power that could suppress all violent energy. At the same time, Luli felt his body was stronger than ever. Luli sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He checked his body over and over again. He didn't find anything wrong. He just felt his body was strong to an unimaginable degree. When his body was rebuilt, it should be about the middle stage of the Saint Emperor realm. Theoretically speaking, his body should be at the later stage of the Saint Emperor realm after absorbing more energy of origin and destruction. But Luli felt he could smash a Saint Emperor at the later stage of the Saint Emperor realm with one punch. If he used his full strength and mobilized the energy in his body, he might be able to smash a small universe. Of course, he would not do it directly. Instead, he would cause the universe to shake violently and then collapse, making the universe explode. Blow up a small universe? Then, is my body as strong as a warrior that is infinitely close to the consummate realm? Luli was shocked. If a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate realm exerted his full strength, a small universe could collapse. After all, the space in a small universe was not stable. Let me rest and stabilize. Luli did not dare to move. The punches he made just now almost messed up the energy in his body, which could have destroyed his body. Even though he felt his body had come back to life, he did not dare to act recklessly. He sat on the ground and began to cultivate. He absorbed the Xian-Qi in heaven and earth and tried to cultivate origin energy. Sure, soon, Lu Li's meridians were filled with source energy. But he didn't try to build the pellet. Outside the Dharma realm was the pellet. He planned to merge it with the pellet after he got out. Condensing a divine elixir was useless. His original divine elixir had a Dharma realm. He circulated his origin energy in his body, guiding the energy in his body so that his flesh and bones could absorb it. This was to prevent the energy from going berserk again. After resting and cultivating for 10 days, all signs indicated that there were no problems with his physical body. He opened his eyes and prepared to go out. No, he suddenly thought of a problem. Previously, when he was able to enter the Dharma realm, he was in his soul-body state. It was because the soul-devouring bead had turned into an incorporeal form that he could enter. Could it be that he had to use the soul-devouring pearl to get out now? This Dharma realm has a spiritual connection with me. It's a part of me. Can I control the Dharma realm to teleport me out? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. The next second, he felt a white glare, and then he was outside with the pellet next to him. How magical! Lu Li exclaimed to himself. Then, he cut at his abdomen. A surge of violent energy gathered in his hand. He cut open his abdomen easily. He put the pellet in. There was no destructive force nearby. Lu Li didn't mind. He sat in the void and began to integrate the pellet with his body. The integration went smoothly. Lu Li had reserved a spot for the pellet. The pellet had a spiritual connection with him. It was a part of his body. Therefore, it only took him a day to integrate the pellet. Nice! Lu Li opened his eyes and shouted into the sky. His voice was so loud that it pierced through the clouds. He was overjoyed. It felt so good to come back from the dead. The joy of surviving a disaster filled his entire soul. His body was strong, and he had absorbed a large amount of destructive force. Therefore, the Eye of Destruction was no longer a threat to him. He could absorb more destructive force directly. Whoosh! He dashed forward. He was as fast as a flicker of light, frighteningly fast. In an instant, Lu Li was hundreds of thousands of miles away. He stopped. His eyes were filled with shock and joy. His physical body was strong to a horrifying degree. He could be as fast as the battleship given to him by Emperor Yan. Of course, this was when he was not accelerating. In other words, he was only a bit slower than a warrior that was close to a warrior at the absolute realm. Boom! He suddenly punched out with all his strength. In an instant, he felt that more than 3,600 marks of the Great Path in his body had lit up. Then, countless powerful energies in his body were drawn, and finally, they whizzed out from his fist. A black shadow of fists smashed out. The space in front of Lu Li collapsed. A surge of horrifying energy spread out. Suddenly, a black hole with a diameter of 2 miles appeared in front of Lu Li. It was created by Lu Li's fist. He punched out a hole in the void. The fist could crack the sky. Lu Li was even more shocked. Just now, in that black shadow of fist, he sensed the horrifying destructive force. This was not an average punch, but the fist of destruction. The destructive force was of a high level. The fundamental meaning of destruction was one of the highest fundamental meanings. Lu Li's random punch contained such horrifying destructive force. Lu Li believed that if this punch landed on a warrior that was close to a warrior at the absolute realm, that warrior would either die or be seriously injured. After the punch, Lu Li checked his body at once, fearing that something might go wrong. He was relieved. Because of the trace of Tao, there was nothing wrong with his body. It was perfect. Boom, boom, boom. Luli kept on punching. Huge and ugly holes appeared in the space nearby. Ripples spread out, horrifying and horrifying. Suffocating energy spread out. If there were regular warriors nearby, they would wet their pants. After a while, Luli was satisfied. He grinned. Not only did he escape from death, but he also gained a brand new and powerful body. It was a blessing in disguise. Wait, Luli rested for a while. He thought of something. He wondered if he could go back to the magic realm. Just as this thought came to his mind, his body suddenly flashed and then disappeared without a trace. In the next second, he felt that he had returned to the spell world. He was surprised. He could go in and out of the magic realm so easily. Did his elixir leave his body and reappear in the outside world? Wait a minute. My elixir is in my body. He checked himself. This time, the elixir was in his body. He was taken aback. He used psychic power to check outside the magic realm, only to find nothing in the void outside. No elixir. What is going on? What is going on? Luli was frightened. The elixir was the entrance to the outside world and the magic realm. Now that the elixir was in the magic realm, how could he see the outside world? Could it be that his entire body had turned into nothingness? He was in the Sumeru space. Get out! With a thought, his body flashed, and he reappeared in the Eye of Destruction. He was still at his previous position. He was even more shocked. Not even he could understand what was going on. Third Master. Chapter 3277. The Dharma realm was in the Shumi world, and the elixir was the link between the Dharma realm and this world. Many saint kings would refine their Dharma world into a treasure ground after they died. They would set up a certain place to connect to the Dharma world, but the entrance was fixed and needed. Without it, it was impossible to enter the Dharma world. It was not normal for a warrior to enter his own Dharma realm. The Dharma realm was in his body, and the link was in his body. How could he enter the Dharma realm? Unless he separated the link from his body. For example, if Luli separated his elixir from his body, how could he enter the Dharma realm? But Luli could go in easily. He could come and go at will. More importantly, the link to this world was gone. It was as if he had vanished into thin air and entered the Dharma realm directly, leaving no trace in this world. This was so strange. Luli could not understand it at the moment. He tried several more times and could still go in and out easily. After he went in, there was no trace of his body. This is strange. Why is this happening? Luli could not figure it out. Instead, he was scared. Humans were always in awe of the unknown, not to mention that this was happening to him. Luli thought for a long time, but still could not figure it out. His only guess was that it had something to do with his miraculous body. To be more precise, it had something to do with the trace of great Tao in his body. The trace of great Tao was strange and miraculous. Because of the trace of great Tao, Luli was able to form the Dharma realm. Because of the trace of great Tao, Luli was more sensitive. Because of the trace of great Tao, Luli could suppress the chaotic energy. Because of the trace of great Tao, Luli could bring his body back to life. Therefore, the fact that he could go in and out of the Dharma realm without leaving any trace must have something to do with the trace of great Tao. Of course, these were all his speculations. Only the heavens would know the exact situation. Luli studied for 2 days and made sure that there was nothing wrong with his body. Then he let it go. This was good news. When his body entered the Dharma realm, he would disappear from this world. Who could track him down? More importantly, when he disappeared, there would be no trace, which was amazing. With the help of stealth, movement, and teleportation, Luli believed that he would be one of the best assassins in the Chaotic Star region or even the 8 galaxies. Apart from 1 or 2 of the 9 warriors of Reaper, none of them was as good as him. Get out! Luli was excited. He was ready to start looking for an exit. There must be an exit in the Eye of Destruction because a Grim Reaper once went out, and so did a warrior who was infinitely close to the consummate realm. There must be an exit. He quickly began to fly. Whenever there was destructive power on the way, not only did he not avoid it, but he also took the initiative to absorb it. He absorbed all of it into the spell realm. The power of destruction was a good thing. Not only could it be used to form the god elixir of destruction, it could also be absorbed into one's body. Naturally, the more one absorbed, the better. Maybe it was because Luli had not absorbed any energy of destruction since he was in the Dharma realm. The energy of destruction outside had increased. Luli could encounter hundreds of thousands of strands of energy when he flew around. He was very happy to accept it and absorbed all of it. The world was vast, and the energy of destruction was abundant. Luli had been flying for more than 10 days and had absorbed too much energy of destruction. Still, he could not find the exit. He continued to fly. It didn't matter if he couldn't find it for the time being. He wouldn't die now. So what if he had to search for a few years inside? That way, he could absorb even more destructive energy. 1 month, 3 months. Luli found some skeletons and some bugs. Emperor Yin once told him that if he ran into bugs and he could go out, he should catch some. Luli caught some easily. He did not know what they were for. Anyway, he just caught them and threw them into the spell realm. During the 3 months, he had caught too many bugs and absorbed too much destructive energy. Still, he could not find the exit. The world here seemed to be boundless. Luli's speed was incredible. He could not tell how far he had flown during the 3 months, but he still had not reached the end. Keep on flying and keep on searching. Soon, another half a year passed. He had absorbed at least tens of billions of strands of destructive energy. He had generated millions of drops of God elixir of destruction in the spell realm, which would last him for a long time. Also, the spiritual chi in this world was rich to the extreme. His spell realm was constantly absorbing spiritual chi in heaven and earth to generate a vast amount of source energy. Previously, when he was building his physical body, he consumed some source energy and destructive energy. Now, not only had he replenished all of them, he had twice as much. Another 7 months passed. Finally, he found the exit. It was another swirl with a large amount of destructive energy. In the center of the swirl were many bugs and another herb. This herb was different from the ones Luli had seen before. The previous one was dark gold in color. This one was black, and it was glowing in a dark light. There was a strange smell. Luli did not know what the fruit was, but since it could be here, it must be a valuable material. Luli flew over to collect the fruit and threw it into the spell realm. The fruit had intelligence. As soon as it entered the spell realm, it flew around. Then, it found the divine elixir of destruction and flew in at once. It enjoyed staying in there. The fruit was absorbing the divine elixir of destruction slowly. Luli observed it for a while and then decided to leave it be. The fruit could only absorb hundreds of thousands of drops of divine elixir of destruction. For Luli, this was nothing, not to mention that there was more destructive energy outside. If he could absorb all of it, he could make another 1,000,000 drops of divine elixir of destruction. In the center of the swirl, there was a dark tunnel. Theoretically speaking, that should be the exit. Luli was not in a hurry. He sat in the center of the swirl and used the spell realm to absorb the destructive energy. After spending more than 2 months, the destructive power of the huge whirlpool was completely absorbed, and the insects were also caught by him. At the moment, there should be over 1,000,000 black bugs in the spell realm. He did not know what they could be used for, but Emperor Yin had told him that those bugs must be valuable. Out! Luli gazed into the void nearby, unwilling to leave. There was still more destructive energy in the world in there, but he could not absorb it forever. Now, the destructive energy was not of much use to improve his physical body. It would be pointless to absorb too much. In the future, when there was no more, he could come in and absorb more. Moo! Luli dashed toward the dark tunnel. Before he went in, he used stealth skill. He was afraid that there might be warriors close to the consummate realm guarding outside. It was better to be careful. Buzzing after a flash of white light, Luli found himself in the world outside the Eye of Destruction. He was right above the Eye of Destruction. What? Almost at the same time, the Star Emperor and the Blood Emperor, who were playing chess in a nearby hill, raised their eyebrows and looked over. Both of their eyes were filled with surprise. P.S. I have some trivial matters to deal with. There will be fewer chapters to update. I will make up for it later. End of this chapter. Chapter 3278. In the past, Astro Emperor and Blood Emperor would check the Eye of Destruction every year. However, after more than a decade, Astro Emperor and Blood Emperor had almost given up hope. They would only check once every couple of years. Recently, the chess game had come to a critical moment. Therefore, neither of them went to check. They only realized it when Lu Li came out. They had thought that Lu Li was doomed. After all, it had been so many years since he came out. Lu Li's soul must be extremely weak. They did not expect that Lu Li would come out. What was more, they could tell that Lu Li was different. This body is not the original body. This body is very strong. The Blood Emperor looked at the Star Emperor and said excitedly. Star Emperor nodded slightly and said, "He is indeed different. After going through a great calamity, his combat strength has indeed transformed. Most importantly, his physical body is very strange. I actually can't understand it. This body has a strange Tao. It seems to be more in tune with nature, like an immortal body." What? Blood Emperor was shocked. He asked in disbelief, "Astro Emperor, are you sure that he has an immortal body? How can there be an immortal body in the 8 galaxies?" "I'm not sure." Star Emperor shook his head and said, "He has the aura of a celestial spirit body, but it doesn't look like it. However, this kid has passed the 5th calamity, and his strength has undergone a tremendous change. If he passes another calamity, he can probably be listed as a core seed. We will pay more attention to him." "Okay." The Blood Emperor nodded. He was delighted. Lu Li was half a student to him. Lu Li had survived the tribulation, and his abilities had improved. The Blood Emperor was happy for Lu Li, and he shared the honor with Lu Li. Whoosh! Lu Li was invisible. As soon as he came out, he flew to the sides. At the same time, he was on high alert. He used the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. Well, there are no powerful warriors. Just some scouts. Lu Li checked. There were dozens of scouts nearby. There were 2 groups of warriors. One group was from the Rainbow Race. They were openly waiting nearby, and all of them were at the Great Emperor realm. The other group of warriors were stealthier. They hid deep and far away. Even so, Lu Li could tell that they must be the best scouts of the Grim Reaper. Lu Li flew to the side and hid behind a hill. He was not in a hurry to leave this place. Instead, he stayed nearby and pondered. He was considering whether or not he should kill the Rainbow Race scouts and interrogate them for information. At the same time, he was considering whether or not he should contact the Grim Reaper martial artists and send a message back so that his family wouldn't worry. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Lu Li decided to leave without killing the scouts of the Rainbow Race or contacting the ones of the God of Death. He was afraid that the news would leak out. He had been trapped in there for more than 20 years, so he didn't care about a year or 2. He planned to go out and hide first to scout for information. After all, the South Pole Immortal Wang could sense his aura. Although he had already changed his physical body, who knew if the South Pole Immortal Wang could still track him? Since the situation was unclear, it was better for him to play it safe and investigate the situation first before contacting the higher-ups of Death God. His body quickly floated out and easily left the world of destruction. Then, he used the God transformation technique. Even though he had changed his physical body, he still had the source of energy. He could change his appearance easily. He controlled his speed. After a couple of days, he snuck into a nearby universe. He wanted to buy information with celestial stones. However, his interspatial ring and interspatial artifact were destroyed. He had no more celestial stones or treasures. Of course, for a warrior of his level, it was easy for him to get some celestial stones. He went outside the city and found a place with precious resources. Afterwards, he began to plunder. He used a spirit formation technique to knock out a Saint Emperor guarding the place. He then used a divine concealment technique to sneak in and easily obtain many crystals. This was a place of resources belonging to a small force. Therefore, Lu Li didn't leave this place after he got the crystals. He went to another force's major city and bought the crystals. Then, he found a chamber of commerce to buy information. Good. 4 hours later, Luli left this place. He had received a very complete account of the situation. He had learned about what happened more than 20 years ago. He had learned about the Lu family and the rainbow race. The Lu family was doing well. The higher-ups of the god of death protected them well. Back in the days, the rainbow race wanted to target the Lu family. However, they went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, the rainbow race was reduced to a half-dead state. The rainbow race was still in the sealed race and had no contact with the outside world. Warriors from the outside could not go in or out of the rainbow race's territory. All the entrances and exits were sealed. Luli didn't know how the Lu family was doing. But with Yu Yang and Emperor Yin around, the Lu family should be doing well. Therefore, Luli wasn't worried or in a hurry to go back. Now that he had come out with a blessing in disguise and his abilities had improved, Luli didn't want to go back with his tail between his legs. He almost died in the eye of destruction. What was more, the rainbow race dared to touch the Lu family. That had crossed the line. If the god of death didn't protect him, the Lu family would have been destroyed. All of his clansmen and relatives were dead. Revenge. Luli made up his mind. Even if he didn't, the rainbow race would try to kill him again when they learned that he had come out. After all, he would be a disgrace to the rainbow race, and they would never be able to hold their heads up high. Rather than being targeted by the rainbow race in secret, he might as well defeat the rainbow race. More importantly, his abilities have been enhanced, and he had an inexhaustible supply of divine liquid of destruction. Also, he could enter the realm of Dharma at any time. He was invincible. Apart from the warriors at the absolute completion, he was not confident that they could track him down. Not even a mortal hermit of the South Pole could. Luli pulled a long face at the thought of a mortal hermit of the South Pole. In order to avoid being hunted down again, Luli planned to subdue Immortal Hermit of the South Pole first. Only when Immortal Hermit of the South Pole didn't dare to do anything could Luli be free to subdue the rainbow race. Luli had found out about Immortal Hermit of the South Pole. He was a famous warrior with a bad temper. Anyone that entered his territory would be attacked by him. The Ray race. There was another ancient race behind Immortal Hermit of the South Pole. But this race had few warriors and powerful warriors. They had been declining, or else they would have been famous all over the world. The Ray race only had one powerful warrior that was close to the absolute completion. They had more than a dozen Saint Kings, more than 1,000 great emperors, and more than 40,000 people. Compared to the rainbow race, the Ray race was a far cry. If it were not for the fact that they had a powerful warrior that was close to the absolute completion, the Ray race would only be a small race. The South Pole region. This was the territory of the Ray race. They only controlled 3 regions, which was less stressful for Luli. Let's go to the South Pole region first. A glint of killing intent rose in Luli's eyes. He would find a way to subdue the Ray race as an appetizer and then come back to the rainbow race. This time, he had made up his mind that he would not go back to the Tianyue city until the Ray race and the rainbow race were completely subdued. P.S. I still owe 3 chapters. That's done. I'll update it tomorrow. Chapter 3279. The South Pole region was far away, and Luli didn't have a battleship. It would be tiring to fly over. Therefore, Luli chose to take a teleportation altar to a nearby region and then fly over. Teleportation was expensive. What could Luli do without celestial stones? He didn't want to go to the Grim Reaper for such a trivial matter. The only way was to rob. He asked around and chose a major race that had done more evil deeds. This major race had been bullying the smaller races nearby. The smaller races had to swallow their anger and swallow their anger. This major race didn't have a powerful warrior that was close to the consummate realm. Luli disguised himself as an old demon and went directly to this region. He killed his way through and killed many warriors of this major race. He looted 7 or 8 places of resources and treasures. When this major race came to its senses and mobilized a large number of powerful warriors, Luli changed his appearance and left easily. This enraged, powerful warrior flew into a rage and searched for Lu Li's old demon all over the world. A month later, Luli arrived at a super region, the Ualu region. Then he sold the treasures he looted in the Ualu city and flew away on a teleportation altar. At the South Pole region, Immortal Hermit of the South Pole had returned a long time ago. He had been in closed-door cultivation to forge artifacts. The skate race was an ancient race. Although they had declined, they had mastered many powerful ancient mystic arts and techniques. Forging artifacts had always been a way for the Ray race to earn celestial stones. The relic weapons made by the Ray race had many strange abilities and were one of the best relic weapons. They were favored by many warriors. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole had been studying a kind of ancient relic weapon. If this relic weapon was successfully made, it could increase the abilities of a warrior of his level by 20%. At their level, it was extremely difficult to increase their battle strength, especially with the help of divine weapons. This was because at their level, they could nurture holy weapons, and the power of the weapons were all very strong, and they all contained a strong, true meaning of the laws. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole studied the ancient books of his race for more than 10,000 years before he had the confidence to start. It was a pity that the ancient books were incomplete. The Ray race was almost wiped out at the fourth heaven, and many books were destroyed. Immortal Hermit of the South Pole studied for more than 10,000 years and succeeded in theory. However, to forge such a relic weapon required a large number of rare materials. The Ray race, on the other hand, had run out of divine materials. Many of the rare divine materials were not for sale by the large races and would rather be piled up in their treasuries. He'd spent a huge amount of money to purchase some divine materials, and he tried to refine it 2 or 3 times. Unfortunately, he'd failed every single time. Refining a weapon was not something that could be done in one go. This was especially true for a top-notch ancient divine weapon. Towards the end, he ran out of divine materials and couldn't continue refining anymore. He couldn't buy them even if he wanted to. That was why he went to the Rainbow Race last time. At his level, it was impossible for him to accept employment. The Rainbow Race took out many of those top-notch divine materials, so he could only follow them. He was not happy about this trip because he did not see Lu Li die with his own eyes. In the end, the Rainbow Race used his reputation without asking for his permission, which made him unhappy. Therefore, the Rainbow Race and the Amber Race tried to persuade him to stay for a while and treat him well. However, he refused and immediately returned to the South Pole realm. After he returned, he went into seclusion. He did not care about anything else and focused on refining. After refining for over 20 years, he still hadn't succeeded, and he'd already squandered more than half of the divine materials he'd obtained from the Rainbow Race. Thus, he'd been in an extremely bad mood lately, and there was a fire burning in his heart. Buzzing, the divine inscriptions in the Great Hall he was in lit up. The South Pole Immortal Wang's gloomy face became even more unsightly. He angrily opened the door to the Great Hall and stared at a Doyen outside. He coldly said, "If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I won't be able to vent the anger in my heart." The elder of the Ray race knew the temper of the South Pole Immortal Wang. His expression became somewhat unnatural. He knelt on one knee and said, "Tribe King, something has happened. 3 resource locations in the South Cloud world have been attacked. All the tribesmen were killed and all the treasures were taken." Slap! Immortal Hermit of the South Pole waved his hand and smacked the patriarch away. He said angrily, "Are you all good-for-nothings? What is the point of keeping you alive? Why can't you find out who did this?" That patriarch didn't dare to argue. He crawled up, dropped to one knee again, and said, "Family patriarch, I am useless." Immortal Hermit of the South Pole's eyes reddened. He finally forced himself to calm down. He knew that his subordinates wouldn't disturb him unless it was something serious. This kind of situation showed that the enemy was very strong, and his subordinates couldn't deal with it, so he could only ask him to go out and take charge of the overall situation. He took a few deep breaths, then strode outside and entered a large hall. Many of the tribe's chief elders were there, and when they saw him walk out with a grim expression, they all dropped to their knees. "Get up." The South Pole, Immortal Wang walked to the main seat and sat down. He said coldly, "Tell me, what's the situation?" The South Pole, Immortal Wang's eldest son, who was also the Yao race's grand elder, reported, "Father, there's a mysterious expert attacking us. I want to track him personally, but I couldn't find him. 3 of our grand elders have already been killed, and when I checked the corpses, they were instantly killed. This mysterious expert is very strong. It's very likely that he's here for revenge." When the South Pole Immortal heard that the 3 elders were killed, his eyes immediately revealed a monstrous killing intent. The temperature in the hall also dropped drastically. He said coldly, "Not even a single clue? He didn't even know what race the other party was? You don't even have a rough idea of his identity?" The South Pole, Immortal Wang's son, shook his head. This thoroughly infuriated the South Pole, Immortal Wang. He stood up furiously and said, "What race are we? We are the Ray race, one of the strongest tracking races in the ancient era. The enemy attacked 3 of your resource locations and killed 3 of your Saint Emperors, but you didn't even find a single clue? Are you still the Ray race? You have shamed the Ray race. A bunch of trash, a bunch of good-for-nothings." After venting his anger, the South Pole Immortal Wang immediately set off. He left 3 Saint Emperors in South Pole City, while the rest went to South Cloud World. He found a resource location that had been attacked. After walking 1 round, his eyes immediately revealed a cold glint, causing the hearts of the nearby Grand Elders to tremble. In order to allow the South Pole Immortal Wang to investigate, nothing here was moved, including the few hundred Yao race clansmen and the few thousand soldiers, as well as the Saint Emperor's corpse. All the martial artists were instantly killed, including the Grand Elder guarding this place. Many martial artists' bodies were directly torn apart. It was a tragic sight. When the Grand Elders saw the cold glint in the South Pole Immortal Wang's eyes, they thought that he was going to explode in anger again. At that time, they would probably all suffer. Unexpectedly, the South Pole Immortal Wang didn't get angry. Instead, his eyes revealed a look of bewilderment. He muttered, "He actually came out? The Eye of Destruction is such a terrifying place. And he actually came out alive? It has been so many years, and there hasn't been any news from the Rainbow Race. This means that he only came out recently. A Thear-cranked martial artist actually stayed in the Eye of Destruction for more than 20 years and still came out alive. This is simply a miracle." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.